you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. I'm here with artist extraordinaire Dan Lawlis. How you doing, Dan?
I am doing great. How are you?
You're great. I'm so happy you're here. Wow, this is amazing. Uh, I I don't even know what to say. I'm fanboying out, and I thought I
Really?
was. Yeah.
What did you like that I did?
Oh, I'm looking through all your art right now. I don't know if there's titles to
Because
these
you know
artwork.
most people remember the cards. That seems like that's the thing that hit people,
Yeah.
and really that was kind of my favorite stuff too. Because like I got it. Well, yeah, I was using this weird color pencil technique on mylar, like a frosted mylar, and it looked really nice when you reduced it down half size. I didn't work so well on the Star Lord, the three-part Star Lord series that I did, because it didn't take enough of a reduction. And when it doesn't do that, your color pencil texture, you don't even see with your eye, picks up, and then scanner looked bad. It just didn't look good. That broke my
Just
heart because
like to
I put a
me.
year's work into that thing, man.
How long does it take you to do one page?
It depends on the page, really, because you can have super detail or you can have something super simple, you know. So it really varies quite a bit. I don't know. I mean, I
Like we
guess like
talking a week, a day?
oh no, yeah, a couple of days. That would be the most for I would put into a page, for sure.
Okay,
So
okay, yeah. Man, I wish I could draw. I you know, for as I was a kid, I think all of us who were into comic books, we all drew. Whether
yeah,
you wanted to be a
yeah, yeah,
writer, I know Chuck Dixon wanted to be an artist first,
yeah,
and then there comes a point where you just, physician, you got to know thyself, right? And
yeah.
luckily I met Renzo, and he's a phenomenal. He's doing my artwork, and I love sending him words, and then he sends me back like almost like he's telepathically reading my mind. You know, do you work with that? Like when you have a writer, do you ever get that feedback? Like that is just what I was picturing. You know,
Yeah, yeah, because what like my job is to get into the mind of the writer and like they pick a direction. I got to go with that direction. I try to recognize the map and the pathway, and then take it in that direction. We were just before the break talking a little bit about Reni's comic,
right?
and and when I looked at her comic book, I said, what style? Well, how can I use? I have a different style than hers because she's
Right.
had more anime influence. How do I get the richness of what she's trying to do, which is a very rich environment of fantasy. So then I
Right.
kind of picked the very detail. That's why I did all that detail. I went nuts with the foliage on that tree and stuff. I was just trying to think of a very almost like oh, I'm trying to think of that one great fantasy illustrator from the past, but it wasn't Linedecker. It was some anyways. But they had this just a rich environment, and I
Right. Well, she's an expert
got
with the
that
world building, so
exactly.
you'd almost feel like I gotta live up to that.
Yeah, it's like Tolkien. He's that world that it's like it's so one the nature and everything is so part of it. So, and actually, I think that's one of the things that I'm noticing, and I do actually expect to see, is that fantasy may become bigger in comics than it was because initially when you had comic books colored in those flat colors like yellow, blue, red, that worked good for Superman, Spider
Excellent.
Man, and because that was a great pop art look. And fantasy it didn't work because you're trying to do browns and gray, and greens and grays.
Yeah.
It didn't come off the page. But now that you can mold and sculpt and paint these things more, you can get all these variations of color
No,
that
that's a
actually give
great
you
point.
nice earth tones and stuff like that. So I
I
think
never
you'll see
thought of that.
more of that now. Flesh tones too. Flesh tones. It's not just a pink anymore. I mean, you see me. I paint those figures really. So
That that, excellent point. Because you're going to see the fellowship go through the woods. How it's just going to be green. It's going to you
yeah,
might as well just yeah. Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well,
actually, too, if you're and because you can do all this fancy coloring, I can go in there with like Frazetta did with like weird painted colors and stuff and accent colors and throw in pop kind of what do you call it the modern art splashes of color. So there's a lot more opening now up. So I'm actually really excited for the whole thing, the whole crowdfunding thing, the whole the doing your just being able to connect directly with the audiences, and it's just fun. Yeah.
yeah. Well,
There's Rex. There's
yes.
Marcus. Hi guys.
Yeah. Look at and Devil Flyer. I just want everybody to get recognized. They were waiting for us. We were talking a little bit before we went live. Since you brought up two things that I was going to ask you about. First off, let's talk crowdfunding. What are you doing with crowdfunding? Do you have an active campaign right now that we should talk?
No, but I have been doing, I think you know that I've been doing a lot of work with the guys who are doing the crowdfunding. So like I colored. Did you see Wraith of God, Aaron's Garbage Man backup? Yeah.
Oh, did I see it? It's right here.
So it drove me nuts because he was saying we can't show this. I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to show this stuff so bad because he loves, of course, he loves Bernie Wrightson, and so
we all do.
and so do I. So we were both in tune. So he did this, his wonderful drawings, and I don't know if you remember how this is another thing we're talking online how organic this stuff happens. I was on a show. He's showing me the first page of Garbage Man, and I'm like, oh man, that's so cool. I love the color of that. And he goes, do you wanna? I'm like, yeah, and that's how these things are so organic now. Like, okay, and I did it, and of course I'm totally dialed into what he wanted to do with it, and it was a perfect combination, and we just had fun.
I forget who I was watching you on, and I was just in the comments saying, and then you just said, "Hey, Joe, can I come on your channel?" I was like, "Yeah, let's go." So
yeah,
what you're saying to talk like this whole crowdfunding thing. I've been involved in this little tiff with these guys fighting with that comic book store owner.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That guy Glenn O'Leary. I've been messaging him. I would love to have him talk to him.
Yeah, well, he should do the circuit really.
Yeah, he really should capitalize on his fame right now.
Yeah. Well, he's gonna. This is great because this thing is that they try to squash these guys, and they're just being honest. They're just saying, "Hey, these comics, they're not. I don't like them that much," and they're trying to pile on him. And guess what? All of a sudden, there's gonna be a lot of people going to visit his store now. Right. If I was in the area, I'd go to his store.
Right.
And he's going to get a lot of customers because he cares about the customer. If you walk into his store, he's going to say, "What do you like?" And maybe you like the SJW stuff. He'll give you that.
Yeah.
But if you don't, if you you'll know, like, you're not going to like this, Dan.
But I saw that Donnie Cates said, "Can you imagine a guy in a hardware store talking bad about hammers?" Well, Donnie, if you're watching this, I'm a construction worker, and yes, I've been in hardware stores, and they have told me this hammer's bad for what you want. You know what I mean?
Yep.
This tool.
Yep.
So it just shows to me that you've never worked with your hands in your life. If you think hardware people don't talk to people about the tools.
Well, imagine the hardware store owner having a great hammer that was high quality, and all of a sudden it's crap, and he gets online saying, "Hey, stop sending me this crap quality. Give me good quality." Yeah. That's what the equivalent of what's happening here.
Exactly.
It's not the other way, but
yeah. So
hey, John, do you feel like this is a kind of a seminal moment?
Yes.
I do too.
I think we're turning a corner.
Yeah, because I think finally they're seeing, okay, these are real guys. These are real. Glenn's a real comic fan. I started my career in '87. I know who comic fans are. Glenn's a comic fan. You're a comic fan. I'm a comic. But it's like, them, and they love the fantasy, the superhero fantasy. And if you mess with that and start putting in commercials, which is really what it is, it's like I always think of that, that movie with the toy Christmas Story with Ralphie, and he's got
I love that movie.
He's listening to Little Orphan Annie. He's got this decoder ring, and he goes to the bathroom, and he's searching through this thing, and he's feverishly, he's hoping some super secret thing, and says, "Don't forget to drink your Ovaltine." And he goes, "A crummy commercial," and that's kind of what's happening. You're reading these comic books, all of a sudden, a crummy commercial for the environment,
right? Yeah,
it's just like I just
spend $6 on a comic book, and I'm being lectured.
Yeah, exactly. Or demonized. You're like, you don't think Black Lives Matter? I didn't think that.
I thought we were talking about an invasion from the planet Glaron.
Yeah, exactly. Wait a minute. I don't remember feeling racist. So
even as a kid, do you remember that the Danny O'Neill and Green Arrow? Green Lantern when the black guy says to Green Lantern, "You've been helping the blue skins and you've been helping the green skins, and what have you done for the brown skins?" Even as a kid. I think I was 9 years old when that came out. I was just like, "What did you do for the brown skin?" I saved you effing life.
Yeah.
You know how many times this planet would have blown up? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm sorry that I wasn't there to get you equal housing or whatever, but
Yeah.
I'm too
Yeah.
busy in
Yeah.
space with this freaking space warthog devouring the sun. So
Right.
yeah, go talk to your congressman. I got outer space covered. That's
Right.
the way I would have done the comic, but I'm a lunatic, I guess. So I didn't.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't want
Exactly.
to take risks.
But I reacted the same way. It's kind of like okay, they're beautifully drawn comics.
Beautifully drawn.
The story was solid and stuff, but then you're getting lectured like, oh, okay, here I am. I got a commercial,
Yeah.
and it's like, and people always cite those as that was the big thing, but those were a couple of comic books, a little one short series. That wasn't the foundation which comics were built. It was
No.
built on fantasy. It was all built on the male powered fantasy, which is it's in essence the fantasy is it's like being a guy dreams of being adored by beautiful women. That's basically what it is. If you're
I will even go say even that hard traveling heroes. If you remember, the sales for Green Lantern plummeted, and then they went back to regular Green Lantern stories.
right,
So that I don't blame comic books for experimenting. Stan Lee came out with a
Yeah.
million superheroes. We remember the successful ones. We forget the failure ones. DC and Marvel, they both experimented with different types of stories. That hard traveling heroes in retrospect, we're like, oh, that was great. Comics were always political, but they had to avert course. The sales were going down. Say the other one they bring up is I think it was Steve Englehart, the Captain America with the Secret Empire, and then the president, who may or may not be Richard Nixon, kills himself because he's ashamed of what he done. Do you remember right after that issue, Jack Kirby came in with Mad Bomb, and it was all explosions and beating up MODOK and all this stuff? Why? Because the sales were pitiful. Yes, they were always political, but yes, always political comics didn't really sell. And
no, because they're downers. That's the problem.
I'm sorry,
they're downers.
You got me fiery there, Dan.
Yeah. But you're absolutely right I said that because they're downers. They're
Right.
fun killers. They're wet blankets. They just you're having fun. Everyone's having a party. It's like a big party's happening, and then someone comes in and goes, "Hey, did I tell you about this cause right now? We're going to talk about it right now." Like, oh,
This
we're having
party
a party.
is great, Dan. And then you turn around and go, yeah, people are starving in the Amazon.
Exactly. Like what?
Well, it's true,
like,
but now I want to go home.
right. Exactly. I'm going to go cry in the room now.
That's so. Let's make a comic book. We'll make the wet blanket. I'll write it. You draw it, and he just shows the people are robbing a bank, and he's just like, "Well, you should be happy that you have a bank. Some people don't even have homes."
Yeah, those
And then
people
he just
those
walks
criminals
away,
are
and
those
the
criminals.
robbers are just like, "Let's get out of here."
Yeah. Wait, you could have wet blanket, and then you could have another super called party pooper.
Sidekick. But the twist is Party Pooper's old, and, and he's like, "Oh, I gotta go."
That's what it is, though. They're just party pooping, and it's like you can. I mean, it's not like you don't know the causes.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing too hard. I can't even hear you.
John,
I blow my nose on TV.
it's not like we don't know the causes. The cause, everybody knows the cause. You know about the environment. You know about the inclusion and diversity and all this stuff. You don't need it. Just put out stuff and see if it sells. Put out whatever sells. That's what you want to make, because you're tapping into people's dreams and fantasies, and that's the core. And like I love Lord of the Rings, and I look what they did to Lord of the Rings with this whatever Rings of Power.
Rings of Power, yeah.
Like, oh God, here we go. Got to mess with it. Got to screw with it. And
I love it so much. I want to change it. It's like a psycho girlfriend.
Yeah, like the hobbits are now girl hobbits. Like, well, wait a minute. This is a boy. Boys read this mostly.
Well, I'm a Lord of the Rings freak. I read the Silmarillion. I read all that stuff.
Yeah, I know the Silmarillion. Yeah.
You could probably name the female characters on two hands, and only one of them was a warrior. The only female hobbits were
are you talking about Eowyn, or are you talking about Galadriel?
Oh, I'm talking about a human. She was one of the houses of the Yadain. I forget her name, but she had read it. She hasn't been in any of the movies yet. But yeah, Eowyn was a warrior. Arwen was she was just a love object. You know what I mean? They elevated her for the movies, which bothers me, but whatever. But
think of like Galadriel. In the Lord of the Rings, Gimli had a string of her hair. And the guy was bonkers for her, I mean, he was ready to die for this woman. just because she was so beautiful. You know what I mean?
I could talk for an hour of why that's so significant for any
Yeah,
of those people who are into the Lord of the Rings.
yeah,
Yeah, but I'm a freak for. But that what you're saying, it bothers me because like I don't know how much money the Amazon spent to get the rights to the Lord of the Rings or the Second Age stories, and then they change it. It's
yeah,
like this committee of people, like, did they all read the Silmarillion? Did they grow up loving the Hobbit? They're that arrogant that they're going to change Tolkien.
yeah.
Like if I was to take a Stan Lee, Jack Kirby comic, I would try to make it as, and I understand there's differences between the mediums, so things do have to change. But I'm not arrogant enough to think that I know better than, say, Stan Lee or Shakespeare or I'm trying to Harper Lee. I'm never going to take their products. I hate that word. Never going to take their works and impose my arrogance and change it. Who am I? I'm nobody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's
I
just
find that
either
to
do
be
the story or
so
don't do the story. That's
right.
what I think.
I'm a kind of a stickler. If I find out, like, if you've changed, you got to argue and give me a convincing argument why it changed.
What
You
did
know,
you think of like the Hobbit? Like the first Hobbit, I loved
oh,
it.
I
The
was
first,
livid. I
and
was
then
livid.
and then it just got like, where did this girl come from? And then
Right.
the jumping around, shooting at people from on barrels and all this stuff. It
The
just
tone, like, I love the Lord of the Rings movies. I still watch them. My wife and I, it's September. Yes, it's September 22nd is Bilbo's, or is it October? I forget now. But we make a Hobbit weekend. We make 7 meals, everything like that. We're big Hobbit fans. But when the movie came out, I was livid. I could watch it now, but like the tone was all off the plate. Are the dwarves badass killers or are they Keystone cops? Because
yeah.
you can't have both. Like, they're stumbling idiots and then they're jumping around fighting the dragon. I just thought the tone was all over the place. I didn't mind that they included Radagast, but the woman, I can't remember her name.
Yeah,
I like the actress, but man,
I do like the actress, but it's like I never remember her. I don't remember her being in The Hobbit.
no, she wasn't. They made up the
So
character. Yeah,
so I don't like that. Don't screw with it. It's like
right.
this is a treasured, beloved story that you read when I was a kid. It's like I don't want them to screw with it.
No. I don't like when people change it. I don't like when comic book movies are changed. I don't like, I'm a big Fantastic Four fan, and like I feel like a battered girlfriend. Like, oh, next time it'll be better. Oh, please, next time. Okay, let's try one more time. Let's please. But I don't feel hopeful for the
Yeah.
next
Well,
one.
wasn't it one the latest one, like Jim Kaczynski from Office was Reed Richards or something? It's like
Yeah,
that's not Reed
smartest man.
Richards.
This is the smartest man in the world. Then he just comes out and gets killed. You know what I mean? Like, the
I
smartest man
didn't
in the
even
world.
watch it. Frankly, I didn't see it, but I just saw the picture and I said that's not Reed Richards. Reed Richards is kind of a little bit kind of gray. He's got the gray bits on his hair, and he's kind of like a
John Hamm.
square jawed kind of like, who's that guy who played the captain in this latest Star Trek, Captain Kirk?
Oh, he
Like
would be good. Yeah, he was Black Bolt.
that'd be a perfect Reed Richards. It looks
Yeah,
like him.
but he was right there. He was Black Bolt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because he played Black Bolt on the TV show. I think John Hamm is my fan cast to play Reed Richards.
Yeah, that could work. Yep.
Bad man.
Yep.
But I love that Reed Richards, the smartest man, and he comes out and he just gets killed. He should have been like, Wanda, I know how to save your kids. Black Bolt, why don't you tell her? And then Black Bolt just blows her. You know what I mean? But instead, whatever.
Yeah.
I just
It's
hated that
ridiculous.
movie.
They're I don't like they got to understand that these characters are all the same. Like the Batman, like Batman's a good example. Like he's handsome, he's wealthy, he's super intelligent, he's the greatest fighter, he's an incredible fighter, and he's literally a knight.
Right.
And that's the old story. It's the knight in shining armor. This is, if you were Batman and you had a mansion like that, you could get any girl you wanted, and that's what men fantasize about, and that's the reality. They're ignoring that reality because all these characters. I mean, Iron Man's is a knight in shining armor. So is Thor. Superman's, he's impervious to bullets. That's his armor.
Right.
Wolverine's got a healing factor. That's his armor. He's got swords. He's got, even Spider-Man's, he's got his Spidey sense. That's his armor, his protection,
Right.
and his weapon. He's got his weapons and all that stuff. His super strength. and he's a super smart scientist too. All these guys are
It's got
things
supermodels hanging
that
all over him.
yes, if you were any one of these guys, and that's the fantasy, and they don't understand that. That's why it's like, why don't you see old lady superheroes? It's not that you don't love your grandmother or your mother or whatever it is, but that's not what men fantasize about. They fantasize about young, attractive, women, and so you can't throw in a blue-haired girl that's overweight. Like they men don't fantasize about that, so they're not going to buy it. It's not that they're anti, they're not anti old lady, they're not anti unattractive women. They're just not what they choose to dream about, and they're and that, so if you're gonna tap into someone's dreams, and that's what Lord of the Rings is, dreams, these almost angelic elves, and stuff like that. It's a thing of dreams. And everyone kind of can say wants to be Bilbo Baggins. It's loving nature, hanging out. I mean, it's the great, hanging out, reading books, and smoking your pipe, with nothing to do all day. That's pretty good.
Yeah, my wife always says, "What would you be if you could be?" And I always wanted to be like this heroic elf, but unfortunately, I think I'm a dwarf. Dwarves ain't bad, I guess. But I always wanted to be Sam. Sam goes on the adventure. He doesn't get wounded. He comes back. He gets the hot girl, and he becomes the mayor, and he lives a full life, and then goes to paradise. Sam, to me, that is the greatest character in the Lord of the Rings.
Well, I think literary experts have said as much, that Sam is actually really the focal point, the true focal point of the story. That's right. He's really the guy who's his heart is gold. Just absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, so. and then you get these people that are trying to. I hate this term ship, but that's the only thing they shipping that Sam and Frodo are gay. It's like, to me, when people say that, that just proves to me that you've never had a friendship. Like that's why these crazy people use the word allies, because they don't have friends.
Yeah, apparently,
You're not my ally, Dan. I always say this: once you've been on my show, we talk. You're my friend. You know what I mean? My ally. Stalin.
Yeah, but again, these were fantasies written for young men to fantasize about being these heroes. If you say that they're gay, then now they're gay fantasies. They're not heterosexual fantasies any longer. So they can project that if they want to onto those characters, but that's not what they were created for, and that's not what we see in them. Right. We see in them what they were intended to be. And which is correct. I mean, that is what he wrote them as. That's who he was, and that's who he was tapping into, that fantasy. So
he was talking about the loyalty of men at war. Frodo and Sam went to war. There were special op forces that went to and saved the world. Frodo has post-traumatic stress disorder. And that's what Tolkien was talking about. Like, he was in World War I, and You just instinctively relied on your buddies. He said they would huddle up next to each other for warmth to stay alive. You know what I mean? And to turn that into, something that it's not really, again, just shows these people don't understand the sacrifice. Yeah. They don't understand the heroism, the horrors that you go through in war, and the bonds and friendships that these guys make. And they turn
it's pure ignorance. It's ignorance.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I agree with you. Oh, so the other thing I wanted, this was all from crowdfunding question. The second thing I wanted, you mentioned Frank Frazetta. You've got to be a fan of Frank Frazetta. I can't even talk. A fan of Frank Frazetta.
Yeah. That's really my guy. That's the one.
I do that. Yeah.
So it's like I can still remember, being in my Catholic grade school library. And it was like seventh grade, and we had to pick a book out, and I wasn't really that keen on picking a book out, but I saw Conan the Usurper, that's the image with the chains, and he's got the snake, and I went, I saw it, almost across the room, and oh my gosh, and I picked that up, and I said, that is so cool, and then I went home and read that thing. I still have it. It's like a totally beat up copy, and. Anyways, I remember finishing it. This is so great. I love it. And then I saw on the inside cover, like, oh my gosh, there's more. Conan the Cimmerian, Conan the Freebird. So this is the first time I think I ever do this. I asked my dad, like, I want to go to the bookstore. And I went to the bookstore, and I with my own paper out money, I bought these books. And I ate them all up. And man, I just went nuts. And then I went to high school, and someone brought in one of the big Frazetta, whatever the prints, the Frazetta book prints, and I'm like, oh my gosh, a whole book of Frazetta. Like I was like, I probably didn't even know his name. I
Yeah,
saw the covers. I
that
thought they were
guy.
great.
Yeah, the Conan guy.
Yeah. So and then man, I just went nuts. I was just like, I love Frazetta, and I actually have it. Oh my gosh, I should have next time maybe I'll bring it out. I have the painting that I did in high school. I reproduced Conan what was the first one with the rogues of the house, and he's got that's the name of the story, and he's on the cover with the big ape with a big red cape.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, that's from Rogues in the House, and so I reproduced that, and it looked it's kind of like crap, but I still have it, So that's You talk about then I think I tried to do the Frost Giant's daughter image. I tried to reproduce it, but I never finished it. It was just I didn't these I made these big, like huge, like they were like 5x5 when so it was a lot of work, and I never got through with that other one, but.
So did you discover this book before comics, or comics first and then you got into reading?
I think it was kind of all at the same time. Because I read comics a little bit younger than that. Yeah, I'm sure I saw it when I was a kid. Yeah, I think actually the funny thing is I think some of my first exposure to comics was in the comic book rack. They actually had a little collection. I still have these too, of Spider-Man Ditko stuff reduced down to paperback size.
Yeah.
So I got to read it.
Yeah,
Yes, small ones.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I got the Spider-Man. It was all Ditko because it was the Hulk Ditko,
Yep.
the first, and then the Doctor Strange and Spider-Man. I got those out of the library over and over again.
So I got to read the Ditko stuff, in full, and then same thing paperback was Jack Kirby stuff. So I got Jack Kirby stuff. Now the interesting thing is when I saw these guys stuff full size after it wasn't taking that huge reduction, I was like, I didn't like it as much because I know it looks a little more realistic when it's down to bubblegum wrapper size practically.
Yeah, I think that hides the imperfections.
Yeah. So some of these strokes are not as fine as I thought. But
It's funny because when I see omnibuses nowadays, like recolored of Jack Kirby stuff, I just don't like it. There's something about the newsprint. I don't know if it's just because I'm an old guy and that's what I like, but like I always say, it looks artificial. Like the colors just look too bright or whatever.
right,
Like,
absolutely, you're absolutely right because the muted colors create a better paint palette. It's like when you see the Beast colored with newsprint from the X-Men, he was kind of that purple blue.
Yeah,
It kind of looked kind of cool and dark on the newsprint. You print that same color where it's blue, it's like really blue.
it looks like the blue on the border of what we're looking at right now.
Yeah, exactly. All of a sudden it's now that's okay, I guess, in a way, but I'm just saying something is lost with the newsprint flat color. That is pop art, in a sense. But
and remember back then we just pretended it was black. Like Superman had the blue hair, but we understood it was black.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then later on, I guess when the coloring got better, they kept him blue and said he was blue. And I never liked the Beast as blue. I always liked the Beast like he's supposed to be like a gorilla. Like gorillas aren't blue. But whatever.
Well, wait, what other colors was he?
Well, he originally came out in Amazing Adventures 15 when he transformed into furry. He was black, but the way they colored the limitations, you couldn't see the details. He almost looked like a silhouette.
Oh.
So then they started putting the blue in because you could see the details better. So he was black, but we just understood, as comic book fans, it's one of those comic book things you don't adjust. Peter Parker never gets older. Franklin, he shot up to 4 years old within 6 months and then never got older. It's just, and then later on they just said, yeah, he's.
I want to see an image of that because I remember Beast initially he was just a big strong guy initially, right? As the Beast.
Here, let me get my hand out of the way.
Okay, so yeah, he's gray there. Okay.
Yeah, he's gray on the cover, and then inside, I guess the paper for the cover isn't as good. He almost, and they did the same thing with the Black Panther. They had difficulty in the original 4-color colors of replicating. You couldn't see the musculature or whatever, so it was almost like he was just a black silhouette. So they gave him like purple and blue highlights. Again, same with Superman hair. If you had black hair, Bruce Wayne and Superman,
Yep.
they had the blue highlights.
Well, they're trying to add color because color does it. It is fun and it attracts. I actually think the Hulk turning green was a good choice. I thought that made him more fun, and I do like the colors. I like the primary colors on these superheroes. They're great. So actually, that's remember I just mentioned like this fantasy having more of an advantage now. I think actually the computer coloring, the colorful characters have a disadvantage now because when you notice that when they make movies out of them, they put somebody in a blue and yellow costume. So it looks in real life it looks a little dorky, but it's not like a black line around it and that sort of thing.
I'm
So
curious to see how Hugh Jackman's going to look in the new Deadpool because they're kind of giving him a comic accurate costume. And
really, okay.
the Spider-Mans, they look pretty cool in the Spider-Man costume, and I've yet to see a comic book accurate Batman costume. Christopher Reeve looked amazing as Superman.
Yeah, yes, yeah. That was really great. Yeah. So, but they probably don't. I mean, that guy pulled it off because he looked just like Superman. I mean, he had those piercy blue eyes. I don't even know if those kind of people really exist out there. I don't know if they could find a guy that looked like that. But
is it funny that you said that because isn't there like facial types, body types that just don't exist anymore? Like when was the last time you saw anybody looked and built like Robert Mitchum?
Yeah,
like that's a face from the past. Humphrey Bogart, like you could almost look at photographs and be like, yeah, that's the 40s, that's the 60s.
Yeah. Well, even like a Clint Eastwood, you see his son, his handsome man, but doesn't really quite look like that ruggedness anymore.
Yeah. It's funny. Clint Eastwood, he played a lab tech in the first Creature from the Black Lagoon movie. He had like a non-speaking part. He just shows up.
Really?
He just you go like, oh my god. You could see why that guy was a movie star. He just was like, he turned around and he was like, here you go, something like that. And you're like, oh my God, put that guy in a movie. He just magnetic,
Yeah.
And now the guy's like 97 years old and he's still like riveted at that guy. There's something about it. Just that guy.
Yeah, that guy's, he's the camera loves him,
Yeah, and he
I love all those westerns, man. They're all great, man. He was so good. Because I remember not really liking westerns that much, and then somebody said, "Hey, check this out," and I'm like, "Oh, now I like westerns,"
Oh, what movie was that?
I don't. There was there's like Outlaw Josie Wales, Pale Rider. There was one where he was kind of came back as a ghost. What was that one? Was that Pale Rider?
Yeah, I saw
the chat will know.
Yeah, somebody in the chat will know.
Marcus will know.
But I remember my friend sat me that we went to a midnight movie of the Wild Bunch with Ernest Borgnine and William Holden. Mm-hmm. And I was, oh my God, I was like, because I grew up watching westerns, but that was something I watched with my dad. It was like, okay, Dad wants to watch a western, we watch it. So I was familiar with them all, but I never paid attention to them as an adult. And that Wild Bunch, I'm like, I'm hook, line, and sinker. Yeah. And I think that's what you said about fantasy. I think westerns are going to come back now with the modern colors because you got to have a desert, you got to have a horse, and I think now you can make the subtleties of like the Arizona painted desert make it look beautiful. Back in the Two Gun Kid era of Jack Kirby, the western. Well,
we'll see because I mean it's a little more difficult because the scenery is kind of dry and plain, but in a lot of ways you have to be a good artist to throw some colors in there and. You got to do a lot of sunsets and sunrises, because that is magnificent when you see the Grand Canyon at sunset. The colors of something like that is extraordinary on that that red rock and stuff. So there's an opportunity there for really good, interesting color and stuff. So yeah, that's a possibility. But
I like what Marcus said over here. I felt that Melanie Trump looked like a John Buscema woman. It's funny you said that, Marcus, because I explained this to my wife, but since she's not a comic book fan, she doesn't know what I'm talking about. But I'll talk to people and I'll be like, that guy has a Steve Ditko face, which is kind of an insult. But that like Rose Byrne, the actress Rose Byrne, that is a John Byrne woman come to life. If you know what I'm talking about.
John Byrne's women were like Sophia Loren and Raquel Welch and that sort of thing. The cheekbones. It's those cheekbones that he seemed to.
John Buscema women to me were like Elizabeth Taylor, and Will Eisner's women were always like Betty Davis or
Betty Davis,
I love that. But I think what's his name, the father from Seinfeld, George Costanza's father, that guy, was drawn by Steve Ditko. That's like a Steve Ditko face.
That is Steve Ditko face.
Poor guy.
Yeah, yeah, and Ben too in a way.
Yeah. So do you see that? Do you see like again like the John Buscema? He said that he didn't draw beautiful women. And I have got to disagree. You know, John Buscema.
His women were knockouts
in Silver Surfer, when Mephisto is tempting Norrin Red, and these three beautiful women come out, one with red hair, one with blonde hair, and one with black hair, and they just had such a lusty face that I remember looking at this as a little kid, being like, oh, I can't show this to my parents. Like this is like the first time I felt like, oh, this comic book is doing something that it shouldn't be doing, you know.
It's a private time here.
Yeah, I got a private time. I guess if Mephisto ever tempted me with the John Buscema woman, I'm sorry, Shalabelle.
It's a John Buscema woman. I couldn't help it.
I couldn't help it. Yeah. Matter of fact, I don't want to talk about. Well, I guess but I'm doing a comic, and the main character is married, and I told Renzo the wife, draw her like a John Buscema woman. Mm-hmm. You know, I want her to like she's physically strong, she's tough, like she's got to be on guard because her husband doesn't have a secret identity anymore. You know what I mean? So she's got to, you know, be a legitimate. Like when she gets into a fight, I want people to legitimately believe that she can hold her own because
right.
You know,
no, there's another misnomer or piece of bullshit that we don't, these comic fans don't like strong women.
Absolutely,
there's always been strong women in comics. Always,
right?
It's
absolutely.
It's nonsense.
Tell me a guy that hasn't had like a crush on like Big Barda or Big
Barda. Red Sonja. How about Red Sonja? Red Sonja.
Red Sonja. Yep.
Here's the most manly, macho kind of story of all, the Conan, and he finds this just gorgeous. Well, it was Valeria. There was Belit.
Yeah.
He had several girls that were like they were badass kind of girls, but they were still really feminine and beautiful. And Conan could have beat them easily, but he's like I remember one. I think it was the Red Nails, and I think the character was Valeria, and she was Conan. She pulled her sword out on him, and he goes, "I could easily disarm her, but I could hurt her." But he goes, I don't know if I could disarm her without a weapon, like without using my weapon. Like so, he was saying he could beat her, but she was deadly still.
Yeah.
So it's not like he said many guys have fallen to her. Like she's a good swordswoman.
Yeah. When I said Big Barda, I always liked the fact that she was physically powerful, like I guess Wonder Woman level, but she was married and she loved her husband and they were a good couple. To me, I found that to be like a devastating combination. Here she is, like she grew up in literal hell. She escaped with the love of her life, and they just wanted to like. I love that series when they were just like they had a house, and Oberon lived with them as that wacky uncle, almost like a sitcom. And I thought that was really great. And then what's his name? Scott Snyder comes around, and now they have problems and they're bickering. And I just said, you took like the most perfect, beautiful marriage in all of comic books. Like they literally escaped hell. This is like a Tolkien-esque story, and then you put your neuroses in it and ruined them. Like I don't want to dislike Mr. Miracle and Big Barda anymore, but I do dislike Scott Snyder. And then he's doing the same thing to Batman.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, they're trying to beef up the drama and stuff, but the problem is that's not really like remember the whole thing with Ditko and his Mr. A and stuff, and he hated the flawed superhero, and I kind of do too sometimes. And why can't, because they do it for drama's sake,
right?
But the reality is sometimes you want your heroes to actually be someone that's better than you. Like a lot of people were pretty upset when they made Iron Man, who's Tony Stark, into an alcoholic.
Right?
They were like, hey, I'm better than this guy now. Like why am I don't want to fantasize about that. So they think that we gotta explore the put them through the ringer and all this stuff. But you take a good character and put them through the ringer. You don't take a character and put them through the ringer because they failed and they're a loser and they screwed up everything, made all bad decisions. We do that,
Yeah.
I don't want a character who's better than me, who's worse than me, or something like that. So
I mean, each character's a little like Superman is the ideal, for a whole bunch of reasons. First off, his popularity.
yeah,
First off, because he was first. Second off, because they made him overpowered, and then how, like, the legend that grew up around him. Superman is supposed to be the ideal. He's supposed to be perfect. I don't want to read that, like, all of a sudden we find out Superman's cheating on his wife, or Superman's secretly gambling, or Superman's perfect. Superman is the example
yeah,
that everybody. And if you can't write a story where Superman is supposed to be the dad that shows up and just looks at you and you're like, well, I'm not going to mess up now because I don't want to upset that. But Peter Parker, I don't really have a problem if Peter Parker gets beat up by the Green Goblin and he's laying there in the rubble and he's like, oh my God, I just missed class now because I was unconscious for 4 hours. It works for Peter because Peter is the average guy, the relatable guy.
right.
Superman's not. So, which is why when I saw Man of Steel and his father told him, maybe you shouldn't have saved that school bus full of children. I remember I looked at my friend Mike. We were in the theater, and I was just like, do these people understand Superman? Like,
Right.
do you know the scene I'm talking about?
I saw the movie, but I don't remember that scene.
Yeah, like Superman as a kid, he saved the school bus, and he's like, did anybody see you? And he's like, because we don't want the government. Pa Kent would have been like, you did the right thing. We'll deal with the consequences. We'll figure out what to do when the time. And then he just looks at his father, and his father's like, let me die in the hurricane or whatever. I was just like, and that was it. That was the last DC movie that I've seen, because if you get Superman wrong, everything.
Well, here's the thing: is they've already proven that they can do it right.
Right.
Because Christopher Reeve, except for the exception,
but we got to make it for a modern audience, there, Dan.
Yeah, except the where they did the him fighting against nuclear weapons and stuff like that. That was a terrible movie. What was it, third or fourth one?
Yeah,
that was awful. But the first one is, and then the second one too, I think was really, really perfect. Superman's good. You love Superman. I mean, the guy winks at the audience on the way out.
Right.
It's like everybody, you walk in and go, that was fun. That was really great.
Smile, you were like, all right,
That's Superman.
And then the first time Superman shows up, that guy's like, who are you, man? That is one bad outfit.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
whole audience laughed. Like, that's what Superman. Like, when Superman shows up, you don't know who he is. Like, you're in the street or whatever. The bank robbery's going on. Superman lands. It's his first, public showing. Mom just made the cape and he went off.
Right. They let it be a little bit campy.
Right.
They threw a little bit of humor, like when he takes a look at the phone booth, and it's an open phone booth, and he just kind of goes.
Yeah, that was funny.
A little nod to that, or the criminal coming behind him and smacks him with the thing, and he's shaking, and he's like, bad vibrations,
Yeah, but that's like when Superman. You look at him, you're like, oh wow, what's going on? This is cool. Like Superman, like he should have like almost like a mental power of like everybody, like they trust him and they look up to him.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, you don't have Superman. Like
exactly.
I thought Kingdom Come was excellent. Like Superman, whatever happened, I forget what, but he went away, and then all the other superheroes became, like a household without dad. They became spoiled brats.
Yeah.
And then daddy had to come home and give them all a spanking to behave again. That's what Superman.
It's almost like if you want to give Superman some problems, give him some real, like, who do I save or something. Some issues like that. That you can explore some of that stuff, but still keep him good. Still keep his character intact.
He's always good. He may have like, oh man, like you can have good Superman stories of like people reacting to Superman.
Or what if he tries to save someone and it ends up breaking the bus in two and some people die? He could still be suffering. He could still go through angst. He could still go through, I screwed up or something like that. Or but he's still like, I haven't given up. I'm gonna keep trying. That kind of thing.
Right.
So
I can't give up. That's my favorite Superman story is in Hitman 34. I've talked about this before, by Garth Ennis, who hates superheroes. So I got nervous when I saw that Superman was going to be and I was like, oh my God, he's going to be mean and it was like the best Superman. And Superman goes up, long story short, he flies up to a space shuttle and he rescues 2 of the astronauts, and they can't talk because it's space. He brings them down to Earth and they take off the helmet. They go get the captain. And Superman goes, there's nobody else up there. I scanned it with my X-ray vision. And the other guy goes, there's lead shielding. It's a nuclear thing. Go up there and get the captain. So Superman flies up. And when he gets up, he sees the guy looking through the window, and he sees the guy relaxes. As soon as he saw Superman, the captain, who was frantically panicking, relaxed because he knew he was saved. And then the ship blows up, and Superman couldn't save the guy. And then Superman comes down. He's just like, this guy trusted me. He as soon as he saw me, he knew he was saved, and I failed him. And now Superman's dealing, and like other people, he goes to Batman, and Batman's just like, yeah, well, he saved a lot of people. I got stuff. Batman is incapable of the friendship that he wants. Wonder Woman explains to him, well, in a war, this is a war, this kind of. And he meets Tommy Monahan, who's like, yeah, well, and he just meets the man on the street, and they just have this wonderful conversation about heroism, about immigrating to America, and Tommy Monahan, he came from Ireland, and he says, everybody comes to America, and then the Catholics hate the Protestants, and the Irish hate the English, and the Northern Italians hate the Sicilians, and they bring all the nonsense that they fled. He goes, this is the fresh start country, and he goes, and you came from Krypton, and you respect. I read this. I buy that comic for everybody who's like, why do you like comics? Hitman number 34. Here you go. I think I bought 20 copies.
That's why it made me angry when they had Superman renounce his citizenship.
Yes.
That was, and I actually, it's interesting because I pulled a screen grab from that, but you can go to Bleeding Cool and look that up. But they quoted me. This is 2011. My quote is pretty strong, but I didn't. And I was just in a chat. I was just in some chat. Somebody found it and sent it and put it up there. But everyone else is so flippant about the way they thought of this. Oh, big deal. So what? Superman give. And I'm like, no, this is
justice the American way.
Yeah, this is so important. This is you got Superman's created by two Jewish guys who saw America as a sanctuary. They saw it because they were all this discrimination they were experiencing in Europe. They came to America, and even though there was anti-Semitism here, because of the system we had of freedom and limited government, they could survive here. They could thrive here, and they did. And they saw that, and they saw it, and they loved America. And he became an American icon. And to take him now and turn him and say rejecting the citizenship, I was pissed.
Yeah. I think that's around when I quit getting Superman comics, because that bothered me so much. And then the Superman movie came out. Perry White says he has truth, justice, and all that other stuff. Like, if you're embarrassed by the material, don't make the movie.
Right.
I'm gonna make a Conan movie, but I can't deal with the fact that he stabs people. Then I shouldn't be making a Conan movie.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
why I'm glad Marvel doesn't have Conan anymore. They can't handle having Conan. There's no way. It's a better place now with Titan. I've read the new Titan books, and they're good.
They are good. I haven't read them yet.
Yeah, they're good. So it's because they're bringing him back, and they got this artist, Reb De La Torre. He's like Buscema, as good or better. He's really good.
He's got the Buscema face, the Conan.
Yeah. He's doing it. He's copying Buscema, but I'm saying I don't care if you copy well, and he's copying it well, and if you can, because to me when they say someone's a clone of another artist, I don't care as long as you're doing it great, because in the old days you had a master and apprentice. You would go. You have one guy who studied under another guy, and his artwork would look just like the other guys, but that you passed on the skill set to the next generation. So John Buscema is gone. If there's another John Buscema out there, bring him on.
Yeah, bring him on. I want to read his comics. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one thing I wish for, and it has never happened yet. Is why is there no clones of Gene Colan? Gene Colan's his storytelling was fantastic. It was a great addition to comics.
I did not like Gene Colan, but as an adult, man, do I like Gene Colan. He didn't have that bombastic superhero style. He
was great for Tomb of Dracula, which was...
Tomb of Dracula. I didn't get that as a kid, because to me it was I don't know, it was too grounded, I guess. And excuse me. As a kid, I wanted to see explosions and stretching and laser beams and stuff like that.
Right.
But as I got that as an adult, I did an eBay bid, and I was like, what? I'm glad I didn't get it as a kid, because I just would have been like, I hate this or whatever. But as an adult, I watch it all, and I read it all, and I love it. But you're right, there's no Gene Colan.
Yeah, I just liked his realism and dynamic realism. It was just so great. Because where I got introduced to him was the How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. So, by the way, that's talk about comics. That's another story that's interesting, because I was in high school, and my folders were covered with superheroes, and I was drawing all that stuff, and a kid came up to me and said, "Hey, I got a book for you. It's How to Draw Comics book, man." And I'm like, I know I had seen How to Draw Comics book before. They were just like comics. I'm
Right.
like, yeah, whatever. I guess. Sure, I'll check it out. It's Marvel Comics. Oh, that sounds fine. I'll check it out. So I got this thing and like, oh my goodness, like you was handed the Holy Grail. Like I flipped through that thing. This is, and Stanley's got his blurbs. Hey, true believer.
Yeah.
And I'm just like going. I ate that book up. That because I started out kind of as a John Buscema clone, and in your I always say to young artists, don't worry about copy everything you like, and your own style will naturally emerge from that. Like just the way you look at Sienkiewicz. Sienkiewicz was copying Neil Adams, and he
Right.
sort of emerged and came out of that. Travis Schraik was copying Jim Lee, emerged, came out of that. Mobius was looking at Hergé and Winston McKay, and his stuff became its own self too.
Well,
So
even what's his name? Barry Windsor Smith. It was kind of like a Jack Kirby, John Buscema clone in the first 5 issues of Conan, and then he evolved into the legend that he is.
right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's you sort of learn with looking at what you like, and then you sort of combine stuff. There's still John Buscema's art in me. I still like kind of draw John Buscema woman and that sort of thing. But I'm pulling stuff. I'm pulling for Zeta. I'm pulling all these guys, and it's like a chemistry set. Just putting all this stuff together, and it's like, oh, okay. So it's kind of an actual AI thing.
Well, since you brought it up, I think I already know what you're going to say. But what are your thoughts on this AI controversy that's going on?
Well, it's a bit of a nightmare for artists because some of the jobs are already gone. Like if let's say you had a job and you want to take people, like some guy at the office wants to see himself as Superman. They can do that and type it in, and boom, you got it. So if you were making your living doing that, it's over.
Right.
It's terrible. So what I'm hoping is that sooner or later we're going to be able to at least curb that a little bit by saying that you own the data. You should. I think you should own your data. Like when you created artwork, that's a series of ones and zeros, and that's your data for that image. If someone's taking that and not altering it, just putting it together with another piece, and that's your stuff, your hard work that you put in there. What I'm saying? It's not like when you're taking someone's work and kind of being inspired by it and changing it and molding it. Even though it's combining this stuff, it's still your data being used.
I to the point, I probably agree even more so than you, because I think it's stealing, and I will even compare it to sampling. Back in the 80s when they were sampling other people's music, I hated that. And to me, I know a human being lifted John Bonham's drums and put it in this song. I'm like, but you didn't write that. You just took that. I hated sampling, and I look at AI art as sampling to the nth degree. And I find it funny that people defend sampling and they hate AI art, when to me, I don't really find any difference.
Yeah.
Well,
unless no.
You call up Dan Lawlis and get permission to sample your art.
Yeah.
And put it,
Yeah. Well, it has no soul. Like I saw a picture that was like AI created Sid Mead type art, and it looked rendered like Sid Mead and stuff, but it had no soul. It didn't have any vision. It wasn't put together. And my fear is that it's not that it's ever going to be that good, but it's going to be good enough.
Right.
And so people that really worked all the years and years on this stuff, like I did, to develop these skills, that all that's going to be forgotten and lost. So it's a nightmare. I hate it.
What do you think of then? Because again, I'm pretty extreme. I'm against it to the nth degree. What do you think? Like, I don't even like 3D renderings and models in a comic book. Like, there's so many examples of, like, you could just see there's a Jeep and it just looks like an inserted Jeep, colors washed out of it, and then lines drawn over it, but you could just tell it wasn't drawn.
Yeah.
That pulls me out of the comic.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
If you're going to draw a Jeep, have the wavy lines like Charles Schultz. Do it some way. That don't bother me. And Jack Kirby's cars, they couldn't drive. They didn't look, you know what I mean? But they were drawn and they fit this,
Yeah, but Buscema's cars weren't very good either.
Yeah. Did you ever see their guns? Like, did these guys? I guess being a Jewish guy in New York City, you didn't really see too many guns. Well, then again, he was in the army. He should have known better. Now that I'm thinking about it,
Yeah, well, you're simplifying everything, and you're just trying to get the thing done on time. Plus, people back in the beginning though, people weren't too much of a stickler on types of guns and stuff. They just wanted a story done.
right? Well, Jack Kirby wasn't too much of a stickler on anatomy, but it
Yeah.
it
You know,
worked.
you know, one of the first guys I saw do kind of cool cars was Neil Adams. I thought Neil Adams kind of like because he was coming out of advertising where you had to draw cars, so it was like hey, these are cool, but they're kind of dynamic. Or Michael Golden also can do good tech, but make it kind of exciting and fun.
Right?
So
Jim
it's
Starlin, like I believed that they were on spaceships and stuff like that when I saw Jim Starlin's early work.
mhm.
It was Star Wars before Star Wars, as far as I was concerned. Yeah. These guys are all masters. Neil Adams, it's almost like comic books were before Neil Adams and after Neil Adams. Like it's like rock and roll before Jimi Hendrix and after Jimi Hendrix. They're two different eras.
Yeah, strong influence. Love that all that. Rex has been sending me this stuff like the Tarzan stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I've got somewhere. I've got the large prints, of the Tarzan stuff, and even I have a lot of those the novels. He did the covers on a lot of those things. They were great, man. They were so cool. I almost read Tarzan. I didn't really
I
like. I
read the
read some
first.
Tarzan. I didn't like it that much, but
I read the first Tarzan book, and it was exactly what I expected. I read the second Tarzan novel, and it blew me away. He was a French secret agent, going across northern Africa, getting information and solving a mystery.
oh,
Nothing
okay,
like I expected. I got
okay.
to read the third one. Like I heard, like sooner or later he goes into the center of the earth and fights dinosaurs. I can't wait for
Wait, so
that.
who's? I mean, we're talking about the original novels.
Yeah, the original Tarzan novels.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the first Tarzan novel is exactly what you expect. He's in Africa. He fights gorillas and
Right,
whatever.
right.
But the second one, he goes back and he goes to England and he meets a woman who's I forget exactly the circumstances, but her husband or her lover gets framed for murder. So he becomes a British secret agent, goes to France, and then from France joins the French Foreign Legion and goes all over North Africa, and solves this murder. It's like there's no jungle or anything. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
it's completely different than I expected. I loved John Carter, Warlord of Mars. I liked them all, but something about
I
them.
never read John Carter. I should. I probably would like it.
Yeah, they're good, but something about them I didn't like. And I got to say that the Conan books, I've started reading them. They're pretty hard reads.
Really?
I don't know if you're a Lovecraft fan, but Lovecraft, I love Lovecraft, but it's a hard read, and I find uh,
You talk about the original
the
Howard
original,
stuff?
yeah, the original Conan. I got a big collection. I'm looking over here because I was
Yeah.
sitting over here for the
Have
longest
you
time.
read The Frost Giant's Daughter?
Yes, I read the first
Yeah,
three because they're in chronological order, which is different because the
yeah,
first story is old Conan, right? And then I forget the name,
yeah.
and then it
See,
goes back.
I often bought. I mean, I would because I was interested in the art, and I was always interested in the art. I would buy things for the cover. So I ended up reading a lot of Doc Savage because I love James Bama art. So I
I'm
got
looking around. I
tons of
just
Doc
bought Doc
Savage.
Savage books.
Yeah. So I
Yep.
mean, it just I thought that stuff was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got those guys. Yeah,
I was like, I can't believe I never read Doc Savage.
yeah,
I'm on a kick where I got to read all the original novels. Like I read
yeah.
Philip Wiley's Gladiator, which was like Superman.
Now the
I
Doc
like
Savage stuff isn't it's not super sophisticated, no like that sort of thing, but it's just fun. It's and you got Ham and Monk, and they they're wonderful characters, which I thought Dave Stevens really nailed them down. I mean he even brought him to life for me more, and I thought it just that was so great. So I love those characters all the more after he was done with them.
What would be
So
your dream art project? Let's just say you're getting paid whatever you think is good pay, and then some, and then you're going to do a monthly comic. What would be and you can have your dream. You pick your writer, you write it yourself, whoever you want. What would it be?
well, I think Conan would be it probably. I think and here's the thing is it's kind of like from an art point of view, and it's got something. This is kind of maybe a cop out, but I don't feel like drawing all those buildings and
Do you
drawing
like to draw horses?
cars are a pain in the butt. But when you're drawing fantasy, you're drawing. What I really like to draw is figures and people, faces. So that's I will kind of so or Lord of the Rings. I probably Lord of the Rings more than
Oh,
Conan.
really?
Yeah, I would love to do with Lord of the Rings. So
Ah, I would love to
it'd be
see you
it'd be
do
a
a
lot of
full
fun.
painted Lord of the Rings. Oh my God, that would be awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Do you ever like I have I mean on my Instagram there's a few pictures I drew of Gandalf, and so I can lock down Gandalf. Actually, the most difficult thing was, and it's also on my Instagram too, is the Hobbit. Um, uh, and to get those guys right is very tricky because
Well,
you have people.
they're tricksy hobbitses.
Yes, they are. Yeah, but you kind of they're supposed to sort of resemble children, but sort of you want them to be kind of heroic looking in a way. It's tough to
Yeah, I
lock
imagine.
them down as an artist. I drew a lot of stupid looking hobbits in my time, and
I didn't think of that. Yeah,
Gandalf is much easier,
yeah,
or a
big old,
dwarf. A dwarf is much easier. Anything with kind of craggy, gnarly faces. But these are more like I said, they're smaller characters, kind of. What I mean, I actually like the Rankin Bass artwork for Lord of the Rings and all that stuff. I thought
that's
they
what
kind
got
of
me to Lord of the Rings. The Rankin and Bass.
yeah
And then the Ralph Bakshi. You never finished the
yeah
Rings movie. I
yeah.
love those as a kid.
Oh yeah, yeah. Even though I mean, of course, the Rankin Bass with that stupid rotoscope did, and it looks all terrible near the end. But those scenes with Gandalf and Frodo, where they're walking and talking, and that's where the rotoscope, where they did it right and they finished it well.
And the Balrog comes out. Tell me that
Yeah,
wasn't an
yeah,
impressive scene.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I really liked all those scenes, and the voice for Gandalf was fantastic. I thought he was really good, and Gladriel was great,
Yeah.
wonderful. So
I
I
remember the
just really
first
liked a
time
lot of
watching
things.
that Legolas came out and he was speaking Elvish. And I was like, wow, like did Tolkien, like that's how I didn't know that. I'm like, did they even make up like a language? Is this like just nonsense? Could somebody translate that? Little did I know
Yeah.
that Tolkien made up like 5 languages.
I know that guy was a genius, absolute
Yeah.
genius.
He's a genius, but let's change it for a modern audience because
Yeah,
a timeless classic.
yeah.
We are in this anomalous period right now where we can't handle timeless classics. I
Apparently,
Yeah, it's so
yeah,
freaking bizarre.
yeah.
Oh,
Got it.
before we went live, we were talking about that you said you like coming on and talking to people.
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to get back to that. You said you
Yeah,
enjoy talking.
when I was in comics from '87 to '97, I
Yes,
love
this is
comics,
exactly what we're talking about.
but you're by yourself at a piece of paper, and it's like all day long, and because now it would have been fine if I was in the New York area or something where I could go into the offices.
Where do you live?
I'm in Michigan,
Okay.
and I've been in Michigan all the time, so I didn't know hardly anybody. So it was just like the only time was you go into conventions and that you could see people there and talk to people there, and that was a lot of fun then. But
Okay.
that was rare. But mostly it's really it was lonely. You never I wish they had sent me, like, I don't know if I ever got any fan mail. I never got any. No one ever sent me any, forwarded me any. If
Don't
I had
send him fan mail. He'll ask for a raise.
yeah, exactly, probably. So, but this is so much better. I can put up a piece of artwork and immediately get a response. Like, is that good, bad? You can kind of tell like how much people like it, and then you can talk about it and you get immediate response. So you can and it's just fun to talk about comics and stuff because I'm a comic fan. I'm not. That's how I got into it. Like, I didn't
Right.
choose this stuff. I didn't think maybe it was a good idea to go in. Some
So
people
you're a
do.
comic book creator and you actually like the fans? This is so bizarre.
Well, I sort of like the fans. I'm a fan,
Yeah.
so I sort of like me.
Yeah. It's funny because I'm a social person. My wife's a total introvert. So it's funny that we bring out the best in each other. But I like talking to people. Just today on the train, I'm talking to people. Making friends. Whatever. So when COVID came, I was like, I didn't realize how bad it was affecting me. Like, nobody's talking. I was
Yeah.
working on the George Washington Bridge, and it was just me and 2 other guys, and they didn't want to hear anything about comic books. They did this hockey and golf, and that's all they talked about.
And
And they were
sports,
good
yeah.
guys. Just I had nothing in common with them, and we were for 3 years working together, just the 3 of us. And I'm coming home, and I'm like, reading comics because there's nothing else to do. And
Yeah.
I moved out here and I said, I'm starting a YouTube channel because I didn't know how long this COVID was going to last,
Right.
and that next thing you know, I'm talking to you, my
Yeah.
parents talking to me, I'm having I like this, but a few guys said that they don't like what we're doing right now. It's difficult for them.
Yeah, that's
Why
understandable
I
because you're public and you're that's tough. Like I mentioned to you, like it was tough for me to come out of my shell and start doing this. But then when I got used to it and I could be myself, then I really am having fun now. But yeah, it's just incredible to connect with like the graybeards or the professionals, all these guys. Like I didn't know that these are guys out there like me who I'm a little more conservative and that sort of stuff, and they're family guys and stuff like that. Like holy smokes, because when I get
regular
together.
people.
When I get together with most people I know, it's like they'll talk sports and all that sort of stuff, and I don't really know sports that well, so I'm just like I feel left out of the conversation. And
Yeah,
there's
me
just
too. Yeah.
not very many of us, especially like comic artists. There's not that many of us, so to be able to talk to people about comics is such a huge boost. I mean, I'm jazzed up to do comics. You know what I'm saying? I
Right.
haven't
Yeah.
been excited about it in 20 years. So
Yeah.
it's just fun. And like I had an interview talk about these interviews. I'm talking to Clayton Barton, in Australia there with his coziest at Corzo comic book, and we're it's just like you and I like before the show starts we start going at talking about the comics. and
Oh shit,
then
we gotta go live now.
yeah, I said turn on the darn
This is good
recorder,
stuff. This is good stuff. Yeah.
and so we're talking like that. You turn off the recorder, we're still talking for a while. So it's like 'cause we're starved to talk to people who share our same hobby and the same love that we have, and we find out surprisingly just how many of us there are, how many people are really who love this hobby because. You don't talk about it with when you get older that hey how much I love Spider-Man. It doesn't really come up, but when you get in these forums, we can the
Right.
subject is comics. Then you go oh yeah that one and that story and then that and all
Yeah.
these cool stuff that you read and enjoyed and want to see continue.
Yeah. I work in construction. These are men guys. They'll
Right.
bust your chops or whatever, and even though I'm known as the comic book guy, it's not like I'm like, oh man, I read this freaking comic last night, and it was so good. I got this Dan Lawlis, and I talked about comic. They don't want to hear it. It's not like because they're mean. It's just they're into sports. Or we
Right.
talk shop. I'm an electrician, so we're talking, running wire, and I can't do that all day long. So I goof around with, and then
Yeah. But aren't
I
you surprised? Don't you aren't surprised when you do start talking comics? Most people though do have some moment they go, "Oh
yes,
yeah,
that's what I was leading. That's what I
I
was
read,
leading.
like if your dad or something, or some uncle or something. Yeah, I remember reading Phantom, and
Oh
Phantom
yeah, I
Stranger.
always
Like,
liked the Flash. Do they still make the Flash comics?
yes. Well, yeah,
I
they
like
do.
that
They
Green
they
Lantern.
do,
I'm
but
like,
he's
oh
gay
yeah,
now.
he's gay now.
Yeah,
And then they go,
exactly. Like, well, maybe I won't read that comic.
yeah, yeah. And it's funny because a lot of guys they'll be like, oh, like they'll give me comics. They're like, yeah, these been sitting in my garage for 20 years, and I've given to you. You're gonna like them. So I got a lot. I must have got like 3 or 4 long boxes of some good comics from people over the course because everybody my age and younger got comics at one point. They just lost interest in it, and that's such a shame. Guys like,
Yeah,
hey, they got too expensive, or I didn't like them, or whatever, and but
yeah,
people my age,
yeah.
everybody read comics.
Yeah,
And that's
I got so disenchanted with comics at a certain point where I was, it said I was in from 87 to 97. Like 97, my kids were born, and here I'm facing like looking at okay, I can do I get $100 a page, and I can do 4 of these a week, maybe. Now that's $20,000 a year. You can't raise a family on $20,000 a year. So I just had to go into advertising, and so comics
oh,
kind of broke my heart. You hear that phrase sometimes.
yeah,
Yeah,
Jack Kirby comics will break your heart, kid.
yeah, and it kind of did, and it was kind of tough. So I really I lost interest in comics, and I sort of put them aside. I still love comics, but not. I just didn't follow for quite a while until crowdfunding came along. Because one of the frustrations I had in the comic book field was I couldn't do the quality that I wanted to do in a month. I just couldn't, and I was getting really frustrated because I'm drawing this stuff in pencil, and the inker's not really following. Not that they're bad inkers, but they're not you. They can't read your mind, so they don't know
Right.
when you made that little that little smudge that you want how that shape you wanted it to pan out, like that eye or that nose, and so you got it back and it was something different. And I always felt like it was something that I didn't really want. Except for like there was a couple guys like Ian Aiken, he was really good on Agents of Law and Barbed Wire. I love that his art of that, but it was a real experience and frustration. Even the Star Lord, when I did that whole painted thing, I think this is it. Finally, on my own art is going to be on, and then it printed really crappy, and I was like, oh shit. So now I'm really enjoying it. I mean, I do have a comic book I'm trying to work on, but even if I don't, I'm just enjoying seeing my dream come true for everybody who's like Aaron Lepresti, and Andy Smith. And these guys are having fun, and I'm hanging out with them, and I'm having fun. So, I don't.
Just today.
Yeah.
Look at this. And I got to
see.
show
How
this
did you see? How did you get yours? I didn't get mine. Like,
well, it's who you know, Dan. Man.
Dan, I guess so, man.
Yeah.
Gee, I'm a little lower.
My last name begins with the B. Are they doing it in alphabetical order? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'm just the hired hand. I'm not paying the bills.
So is Comic Con? Is this your full-time job now? Are you still doing advertising?
I'm still in advertising. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's sort of my bread and butter. But I was a little surprised. I made a little bit of money from comics last year. Like, oh, that wasn't that bad. Some of it was original art I sold, but I was surprised that had happened. So if I could create a comic and actually get enough sales and just to replace my income, I would be back in comics, baby. I'd be like, yeah.
I'm going to be kickstarting a comic, and I have no illusions of being able to retire from construction, but I will put this out there, ladies and gentlemen. My knees hurt and my back hurts. Can you please buy my comic?
Yeah.
I have a full-time job, and I've been writing comics, and I found artist Renzo Rodriguez, and we're having a fun. Just he's messaging me today like, okay, I want to draw this. Is this cool? I'm like, yeah. It's fun. But so are you working with a writer for your comic?
No, I'm writing it myself.
One guy is writing it, drawing it, inking it, and you're going to color it yourself too.
Yeah, color it, letter it,
that is awesome.
Everything. Because it sounds like, okay, this is part of my dream is to control it, all of it. I want to control, and that's another thing. Even the controlling of the printing, like when I make these images, like we were talking about Reni's print or Aaron's Garbage Man colors, I can see what like percentage, like how that's going to print because the Photoshop tells me that's a 30% yellow or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so when it goes to the printer, I know it's going to be pretty close. And it was. And so far, I've seen precise colors that I had done reproduced, and I cannot believe it. So the reproduction quality now is fantastic. The printing is fantastic.
This is going to be exciting. Then this is going to be 100% you. Everything. No compromise. That's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I actually sent my story to Mike Barron to read it, and he looked and goes, "This is," because I was thinking like, can you help me write this story?
Send it to a legend, right? You're gonna, right?
And he read. He goes, "Why do you need me, Dan? This is fine. This is good." I'm like, oh, okay. So maybe it doesn't suck, At least it doesn't suck. Yeah. It's not like you said, you need a little. Get back to drawing.
and speaking of Mike Barron, this guy, I got the spinner rack over here. I don't know if you could tell, but I got the badger on it. Everything like.
Oh, the badger! I love the badger, man.
This is a guy that Mike Barron. I've been loving my whole comic book, and now I'm like on a first name basis with Mike Barron. Like, it was my birthday 2 days ago. I wake up, there's a message, and not just like it was like he typed it himself. Happy birthday, John. And I'm like, I said to my wife, Mike Barron just said happy. Like, I'm talking to comic book people. Like, you don't understand how cool this is,
Yeah.
And then I go on Twitter to reach out to other comic, and I'm pre-blocked. Like I it's embarrassing, but like Kurt Basic, I love his work. I understand we have political differences. I'm an adult. I can get around that, but I can't reach out and talk to Dan Slott.
Yeah.
You know, I met Dan Slott like 6 times. We hung out. There's pictures of me and Dan Slott like acting like idiots at comic conventions. My wife used to say I was the only Dan Slott fanboy in the world. And then I get this channel going. I'm like, hey, I'm blocked.
Yeah,
You
probably
know,
blockchain, right, or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah. And you know, I'm like, okay. And
You
then
know.
and then Mike Barron sending me happy birthday message. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so bizarre. You know, the
Yeah.
bad guys are the bad guys are the friendliest guys I've ever
Yeah.
met.
Yeah. My first exposure to Mike Barron was I didn't read Nexus.
Oh, Nexus
It's
is
kind of
great.
funny though. You know the reason I didn't read Nexus? Because I saw a picture of him and he had a thong. Like I was just like, no, I'm not wanting to read that. That's it. That's the only reason I didn't read Nexus.
Nexus blew me away because you know I never liked the Punisher as a kid. I don't know what it is, but like superheroes don't have guns. That was just my thing. I didn't read Charles Dixon. Chuck Dixon said that the Punisher is an adult power fantasy, whereas Superman is a child's power fantasy, and he's absolutely right because now I love the Punisher. Now when I'm on the subways at New York, I'm like, Frank Castle, come on down,
Yeah, I
Frank, take
know.
care of business. You know, but so as a kid, when I read the Nexus and I forget it was the first issue. He just pointed at a guy and the guy's head exploded. And I was like,
Mm.
oh my, like he's Superman who freaking kills everybody.
Yeah, we'll have to
You know,
check it out. Maybe I'll pick up this
oh,
one
it's
that
worth reading. Yeah.
maybe I'll pick up
Never
this one
mind the
that
fog.
Kelsey's. Maybe I'll pick up the one that Kelsey's drawn. It looks pretty darn good, man.
Yeah, it's good and it's trippy. And then the same guy does Badger and the same guy does this.
Yeah, well,
This
that's where. So I mentioned I didn't read Nexus, but I loved Badger.
yeah.
I was so there was something about that was like right in my heyday of you know of when I'm just getting into wanting to draw comics. And Bill Reinhold, I thought his artwork was fantastic. I really loved it, you know. And he's a heck of a nice guy too, by the way.
They
And
all are. You know, I was
yeah,
just talking to Mike Gustovich the other day. The guy's like, hey, how you doing, John? How's it going? You know, like
yeah. Well, you know,
legend.
Jack Kirby was like that. People said
Yeah.
people would just he just had people come in go visit fans just go visit his house. You just come on in. You
You
have a
guys,
page.
I
What's that?
forget who it was, but I forget who it was, but they were telling me that they went to California to visit. You know, not they went to California to visit somebody else, and he was like, "Oh, Jack Kirby," and he looked him up in the phone book. He was on my channel, and I can't remember who told this story. And he just went and knocked on like the parents. His own parents were like, "Yeah, here you go visit this old man who we don't know who it is." Knocked on the door, came downstairs. Jack Kirby, you know, was talking to him. Rosalind came down with sandwiches, you know, and then the parents came and picked him up, and he was like, "Yeah, I spent the day with Jack." How freaking cool is that?
I
You know,
know. No
you know,
shit.
and that's to me, that's comic books, you know. And
Yeah.
so I don't understand these unfriendly people who can't stand their fan base, you know.
Who are they? Who are they?
Right.
I mean, I don't know. Is the current Marvel crop? Is that what's going
Yes,
on?
yes. I thought you were being yeah. Go talk to Marvel Comics people and you know and tell them that you lean conservative, that you probably didn't vote for Biden, and and you're still a fan of the X-Men, and watch how fast you know they throw pitchforks at you.
Yeah,
You know,
it's nuts. That's the
and
thing.
that's
It's so sad. It's like these. Here's the thing: is that like
we
if they're
want
gonna do
diversity.
these, if they're gonna do stories that have a meaning, like let's look at Star Trek. Remember the episode where you have the black guy and the white the what with
Yeah,
with
Frank Gorshin. Yeah,
the two different faces. You know, they one black guy on one side, white on the other side, and the whole meaning of that story was, hey, let's not kill each other. Let's we got to all love each other, kind of thing, and to get along. And that was a strong message. Everybody can agree on. Doesn't matter if
right.
you're liberal, conservative, whatever it is. You know.
But
Now
I have to
they're
laugh at
picking.
that because that's an example. Like Star Trek was always political, and they show that picture of Frank Gorshin with the white, and I'm like,
Right.
that's not politics. That's populism. Like what?
Yeah.
I don't. You guys demonize Republicans so bad that you think that Republicans just want to kill other people that aren't them. No,
Right.
no political group, at least in the United States. I can't speak for whatever country, but no political group wants there to be genocide and wiping out people. That's
Right.
populism. Nobody likes racism.
As a matter of fact, really, I think it's mainly limited government. That's the sort of the essence.
That's the
You-
big difference between the Democrats or the left and the right, as I always say, is more government, less government.
Yeah.
I always say collectivism versus individuality. To me, that's
Yes,
the difference.
individuality.
Collectivism versus individuality. I'm a more individualist guy, and I got problems with my own party, but then again,
Yeah.
I got problems with groups. That's just the way I am. Individually, me and you, I could talk to you.
Well, it's like they're saying absolute power corrupts absolutely. It doesn't
Right.
matter. The right or left, they are corrupted. But
Right.
so you got to try to figure out. That's why I kind of pick which one's going to take the least amount of taxes from me. That's
Right. Who's
like,
going to leave me alone, and who's going to let me keep most of my money?
that's pretty much what I think.
That's my politics right there. You just learned all my politics. You said, and when they go like, "Oh, Superman, he was beating up bad landlords and wife beaters," I'm like, "Well, that's not politics. That's populism. Right. Nobody likes bad landlords, and nobody likes wife beaters."
Right.
I'm like, and Captain America was punching Nazis. I'm like, yeah. Everybody wants to punch a Nazi, but
right?
You guys think you have a monopoly on it,
Right? Like hey, that's what actually makes me kind of angry too, because my dad fought in World War II. He was on the Japanese side of things, but
your father was a Japanese soldier.
Yeah, I look a little Japanese. But he was. He that's where I got my conservative politics, my traditional, everyday, average, nothing special, nothing, crazy, average American politics.
Which is now considered right-wing extremism.
Yeah. So my dad, who was part of the effort that he risked his life at 17 years old to defeat the Nazis, they're calling him Nazi.
I know.
That just that just makes me burns my.
But none of them will come up to you and say it to your face. They'll say it behind the screen, or they'll say it when they got 40 guys with ski masks on to back each other up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and that's the thing.
I hate that they're claiming Jack Kirby as Antifa.
Oh gosh, no, yeah. Or even Stan Lee. I mean, Stan Lee was he all these guys. They knew and they tapped into Americana. They really understood the whole country, and they sold to the whole country, and that's why. It didn't matter if you were, down south or whatever. And like that's what he was saying once about Black Panther. He goes, remember, I think you probably saw an interview where he goes, "Oh, you'll never sell those comics in the South," and he says they sold great in the South. So it's bullshit. That these people.
Also, the South has the most percentage of Black people, and and if the theory of representation is true, then it would, of course, it would sell in the South, but.
Yeah, but I'm saying white people were buying the Black Panther. I thought the Black Panther was cool when I was a kid. So it doesn't matter.
All that mattered was it a cool costume. That black costume with that little tiny cape and then the stripes on the glove. That was a freaking cool costume.
Does it tap into the male power fantasy dream? That's all that matters. You look at that guy. I want to be that badass guy. Like I remember when I was a kid, my brother and I we had the tall 12-inch GI Joes, and we had a few black guys.
Fuzzy head, right?
Yeah, we had a couple of black guys because we thought they were cool. You know, that's it. We thought they were tough, they were badass, they were cool, and nobody ever said anything. It wasn't like you have to have diversity. No, we don't crap about diversity. We like you thought it was cool. That's it, and that's what they should do. Put out comics. If it sells, people think it's cool. Keep making more of those.
Right.
But this forcing these agendas are it's a nightmare. It's going to ruin, and it has ruined comics, frankly.
It has ruined comics. Like, again, they misrepresent. Like, I'm in a Twitter battle right now. I should stop. But I'm at the point where I get amused by it. But one of the guys was like, talk about this comic book guy, this Glenn O'Leary, and he says they don't want you self inserts. And then somebody commented, well, then you never read Stan Lee's Silver Surfer comics. And I said, au contraire. And I made a video of the actual Stan Lee Silver Surfer. I have them all because I'm a lunatic and I have them all. So he goes, well, then you didn't read them. I said, what issue is Stan Lee inserting himself in? And he says, and then he shows me a video of Stan Lee going, yeah, I used my philosophy as a mouthpiece for Silver Surfer, talking about the beauty of the world. And I said, you fundamentally don't understand the difference between first off, Stan Lee created the character. Even if you wanted to make him a self-insert, that's fine. That's his character.
Yeah.
Second off, you don't understand the difference of using a character to saying stuff that you agree with, your politics or whatever. But first off, who disagrees with the beautiful earth and they don't want war?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, what
he's picking universal ideals.
Right. It's a universal idea. Second off, he's still Norrin Rad because he's not Stan Lee. Because Stan Lee would just be like, yeah, this world is beautiful, but I got to go to work in the morning. Like, you don't understand what a self-insert is. Like, Vita Ayala's X-Men, everybody's a bisexual, non-binary, head shaved on the side, lesbian,
Yeah.
but they're binary at the same time. So I don't understand. That's a self-insert.
Well, actually, Stan Lee might even admit this too. And I thought this too about the Silver Surfer. He was a bit of a whiner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So maybe Stan Lee shouldn't have been, pontificating as much as he was, because it's like, it's kind of, it's kind of
I
like,
call
because I always
Silver
thought, man, I always thought, like, wait a minute, man, you can freaking fly through go through a galaxy and rip through the center of whatever, and
Yeah.
you're whining about
Yeah.
your life. Like, this
Power
is,
cosmic, and you're whining.
yeah, exactly. I'm like, come on, man.
I always said this Silver Surfer and Doctor Doom are the two biggest drama queens in comics, and I love them both for it. Because every Silver Surfer is like, why? Yeah, I was born and then Doctor Doom is just like, Reed Richards. If when Doctor Doom appears in the MCU and the actor is not overacting, then he's not doing his job right.
Right.
They got to have some like almost like silent movie era actor, like
Yeah.
I don't know, but Doctor Doom's going to be in a wheelchair and blind, handy capable, and non-binary. For a modern audience.
Which is non-existent, by the way. That audience doesn't read comics, have no interest in comics. It's when you do these niches, what you want to do is, you want to, like I said, you want to tap into the basics, the male fantasy. Being like, let's say I'm writing for a woman, I will make the woman adored by guys. Like, if your romantic comedies, basically that, a couple guys tripping over themselves to date some girl.
Right.
That's a woman's fantasy. Their fantasy is Superman being attracted to her. That's their fantasy. The guy's fantasy is to be adored by the attractive woman. If you don't do that, if you don't make a character that a guy wants to be, you're not going to sell comics. And that's really as simple as that.
Well, let's put it this way: men have always liked Harlequin romances. And then we're going to go into romance. We're going to write me and you. I'm going to write it. You're going to do the cover. And Harlequin romance, we're like, okay, we're just going to change this. It's the main character is going to be a man with the machine gun who's fights terrorism and whatever. And then women are going to be like, but this isn't a Harlequin romance. You're sexist. You're sexist.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with Harlequin romances being for women. And if there's men who like the Harlequin, more power to you, buddy. Like what you like.
Yeah. Well, remember they Todd McFarlane interviewed him, and he was talking about selling stuff, and he got in trouble for this. He said,
right.
I can't sell
Todd
James.
McFarlane, he's the biggest genius in Marvel in comics as far as marketing.
Yeah. I said, I can't sell James Gordon dolls in the Barbie aisle. That tells you everything you need to know.
Right.
Can't you just can't. It's not going to work.
I had a buddy. I have my buddy Phil. Actually, it's his birthday today. Hello, Phil. He had twins, and Phil is super progressive, and he had twins, a boy and a girl. And they didn't have a TV because he's like, once we have kids, we're not going to have a TV. And he just said, what do you want? He bought, they're little kids. He bought toys, and then just didn't tell them whose toys were hers. The girls went to the Barbie dolls and started changing diapers. The boy, he picked up the Ken doll, and next thing you know, he had a pencil as a machine gun, and he's fighting. Yeah. And he was just like, kid, they're different. They were twins. They had the same mother. They had the same father. They were born on the same day. Yeah. They went to the same house. Well,
the girl will have some toy like maybe a toy cell phone or something, and they'll be talking like this. Boy comes over, that thing's a laser. It's a gun. Everything's a gun.
I remember my friend Tommy. I was being babysat by their older sister, so it's me, Nancy, the older sister, Kathleen, and Tommy. So we're all in the house. Let's play school. I'm like, okay, I'm the principal. Okay, so you're the principal. So Nancy's teaching Tommy and Kathleen, and I'm the principal. So I'm walking up and down the hall. So I open up the door. Tommy, we have to go. There's a bomb in the school. And Tommy's, Mr. Joe, we got to go. And they're just like, but we're doing math. But there's a bomb in the school. And now we're running around the house trying to defuse the bomb. And Kathleen and Nancy are practicing penmanship.
Yeah.
That's
the difference. That's the difference.
Got to defuse that bomb,
Yeah.
I still think about that. How fun it was,
Yes.
We're crawling through the boilers, playing school. That's playing school,
Yes. Yes.
All right. We've been talking for an hour and a half now. I try to keep these down for an hour because I just feel
Yeah.
an hour is a perfect encapsulation. But I could talk to you all night long. I
I
said the
know.
typical, but I
This
can't
is
talk
it.
to everybody.
You get a couple comic guys together. I mean,
I
Gary Martin
know.
was saying the same thing. Like, you know, you get a couple comic guys together, they just go talking. They'll talk for hours. You know.
Isn't it refreshing? I was going to say this before, but you started talking, and you know how conversations they. Uh, isn't it refreshing to talk about there was that picture of I forget what it was. It was a convention, but it was Ethan Van Sciver and all those guys. They were sitting around a table, and they all had cigars, and they had like whiskey glasses, and they were eating steaks. And I'm like, I've been at that table before with all my construction worker guys, and these guys are talking about their speedboats and their ex-wives, and they're putting their kids through college, like manly stuff. I just built a shed, and then I look at that table, and Graham Nolan could beat the crap out of anybody. I don't care what anybody says. That guy, I wouldn't fight him.
Oh my God, he's in great shape, man.
Yeah, with great shape. You know what I mean? I'd hate to bump into him and have him angry with me. So I'm looking, and it's the same manly faces, and every one of these guys drew guys in tights. They superheroes. They sat down, they drew. They'll talk about color composition, like all this wonderful nerdy stuff. And I was like, wow, I wish I was at that table.
Yeah. Well, that's you just described Frank Frazetta, because Frank Frazetta was a manly man.
Yeah,
That guy was. I never met him. I wish I had met him. I was actually afraid to meet him because I was afraid he's like he grabbed me by this, grab me by the scruff of my
funny
neck.
that you said that, because I get nervous. Like you were really nice before we even started talking, but some of these guys, I'm like Mike Barron, I was so I intimidated myself to the point when he came on my channel. I was like, I don't know what I expected. Then he turned out to be the nicest guy in the world.
He's really, really nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can imagine meeting Frank Frazetta and just like grab him by the scruff of my neck and just throw me out the door.
Yeah.
Get out of here, punk ass kid.
According to the documentary, he had a choice of professional baseball or professional art. So
I know. I mean, did you ever see the Painting with Fire documentary stuff? That. Oh my gosh! I can't find my copy. I lent it to someone. I can't.
Yeah, me too. I lent it to somebody, and I might as.
But
I realized lending things to people means I'm never getting them back.
Anyways, this guy could knock the crap out of a baseball. I mean, he was an athlete, and I think that's some of the stuff that I have noticed that guys who like Buscema apparently was a strong guy. The guy could bench press a ton of weight. Like these guys are really physically fit. And I think these guys who have some athleticism, they feel the motion of the figure. They know what it's like to hit a punching bag or something. And so I think Frazetta was like that. But at the same time, they would tell you Frazetta could do the daintiest little thing.
He was too. He was a dancer. Yeah.
Huh?
He was a dancer too. You know what I mean? I was.
Yeah. Well, look at that. Gail Kane was a big dancer, right? So. But he understand physical movement. He understand grace and balance and all that kind of stuff. So, by the way, just before we go, I'll just mention my YouTube channel, my tutorials and stuff. And that's one of the things. Like one of the first videos I made was how to draw dynamic figures using gesture drawings and stuff like that. Where you learn how to create power and energy in a figure. And it's from the How to Draw Comics the Marvel way. It's something I learned in art class and all that kind of stuff too. Just how to draw a character with power, energy, balance, grace, and then how to flesh that out, and then so I go through all those aspects of. There's a lot of stuff there of how to stuff. So if anyone's out there as a beginning artist, man, this is some good stuff. I mean, this is an art course. It's an art course. So
I wish I could draw. I had Shane Davis on the other night, and he was talking about how he had Superman doing martial arts moves, and Batman throwing punches that. Were real punches.
Because Shane boxes, yeah.
Because he does it, and I look at like fights in modern comics. I'm like, have you guys been in a fight? I just have to laugh. Like one of them was gonna beat up your boy Zach. He's like, and Zach always laughs. He goes, "What do you think? You're gonna punch me? I'm gonna fly through the air and everybody's gonna clap." Throwing a punch hurts. I've been in. Believe it or not, I've been in a few fights. Your knuckles hurt. Yeah, I can show you my broken.
Yeah, I can't get any fights. I got my drawing hand. I can't. No fight. No, don't hit the hand.
Yeah. I look like I'm doing a Vulcan, but there you go. My broken pinky. I'll explain that story someday.
Okay.
But thank you, man. This is great. Come back anytime you want.
Well, probably. Now, weren't you in Matt pre Kings or something? What is it? Matt Barr's.
Yes, yes.
That's where I saw you there, and so and I'm actually got an interview with what's the other guy who was in there? Um, uh, Getting a brain block, but I'm on next week with his show. So it's like it's kind of
There's
fun.
like
Like
30 guys in that group, so I don't know exactly which guy you're talking
I
about.
think it was Don. I think. Yeah, I'm getting a brain fart, but anyways, yeah, I go on these shows, I hang out, and I get inspired to hit that drawing table and get going again on comics. It's like it's fun. So
Do you let me ask you, because I said that I like individuals, I like talking to people. I find it difficult to be in like panels, like when it looks like the
yeah,
Brady Bunch and the 6 people. I
yep,
tend to shut off and I don't know what to say. Like, do I I don't have that strength of personality to just interrupt people.
right, and I think that's I'm thinking that's a bit of a skill to have the timing right down too,
Yeah,
and that sort of thing. So because that's why I have I don't like I went on Ethan's show a few times, and I didn't really say much because there's so many strong personalities there,
right.
and I just I couldn't get a word in, and I didn't really love that too much, although I love the show and all that. I prefer to watch it, frankly,
Yeah. Well, he's in it,
because
he's got many skills. One of them is he's good on YouTube.
oh, he's funny as hell,
He's
man.
very charming. To
Yeah,
watch.
yeah, he's got charisma kind of coming out of his butt.
I haven't been invited on, but if I was invited on, I think I'd be like, I would bomb. Not
Yeah, you know what?
I like to talk, but one on one, I'll talk.
Yeah.
I'm doing a show with RJ. It's going to be me, RJ, and Ethan Van Sciver is going to be our first guest next Wednesday. So I think 3 people I think 4 people is good for me. But once we get more than 5 people,
Well, I used to do that. Did you remember did you ever see that Players show that I did with Gabe Altaib, Gary Martin, Aaron Lepresti, and David Williams? We we were doing that for a while. It was on Gabe's channel and stuff until they had their falling out there. But I really looked forward to that. It was really great. So and then these guys kind of did the graybeards, and I've been on this show occasionally. I'm kind of like a fill-in, so if someone can't show up or something, Aaron
You're
calls
the Tony Randall for Johnny Carson.
Yeah, pretty much, Yeah, so
Does anybody under 40 get that joke? Who's Tony Randall? Who's Johnny Carson?
yeah. So I'm definitely a fill-in host. Hoping not like the Joan Rivers or the.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm kind of the Jay Leno, maybe, I don't know.
Well, I'm going to be RJ's Ed McMahon. For
okay. Well, that's kind of it's funny that you mention that. Don't you think that's kind of like it's almost like Ethan is kind of the Johnny Carson and John Malin's kind of the Ed McMahon, where he kind of comes in and sort of says, "That's right, that's correct," and
Yeah.
says his 2 bits, and it's kind of funny. So, and then you got Cecil, which is hilarious, and there's a bunch. These people are a lot of fun. I get it.
They are.
When I'm working. I mean, speaking of my conservative beliefs, they kind of were shaped by my dad, but they were enhanced by talk radio, and that was how I got through the night when I had to work through assignments, and I needed a human voice. I needed people to listen to, so I don't really listen to talk radio, but I listen to these shows. And I put them on, and they're often live. And I, with what I do, it's almost due the next day. So I stay up late naturally every night. So I'm up till 2 or 3 or 4, naturally. And they're on live, And so I can put them on, and I just work away, and I'm listening to them. And then I can go and put a comment in now and then. And you know how it is when you get your comment read, like you get a kick, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I'll put a comment in Ethan's, and it just whisks by among the hundreds of comments.
Yeah.
They're never going to acknowledge me,
Yeah.
Not like me.
But it's funny as hell. Like Ethan, it was one time where he was talking about Cary Grant, and he said, "Wasn't Cary Grant is he gay or something like that?" And I typed in the chat, I said, "No, you're thinking about Rock Hudson's," and he goes, "No, Dan, you're thinking about Rock Hudson's because you're gay," and I'm just cracking up, it's just a lot of fun, and I like that kind of that banter where it's a roasting show. It really is, and so everyone's roasting everybody, and they have a lot of fun,
Yes, it's funny that you said that because I was going to bring this up earlier too, but how the nature of conversations is. All these SJWs, they always Ethan said this about this guy, and Ethan said that about, and like you're totally missing the point. This is guys hanging out.
Right.
Yeah. You come to the shanty when we're all putting on our work boots in the morning, and this guy's a fag, and that guy's gay, and this guy, shut up, I banged your mom last night. Oh yeah, and then it's time to work, and it's, and that's just the way it is. Like, these people would be appalled to find out how normal guys, we say fighting words to each other, and then next thing you know, we're like, okay, getting in the mud and helping each other out. God forbid anybody was actually get hurt. We would be like, jumping in and saving these people. You know what I mean? But
yeah, it's playful. It's
and
just
that's what Ethan's doing.
just goofing around. Yeah, just goofing around, and sometimes he'll say stuff just to actually yank their chain a little bit.
Right. Yeah, see how far you
and and of course they go nuts. But I appreciate it, because even though they're joking, it says about John Malin too. It's like, even though they're joking around, it's actually very serious what they're doing. They're taking a stand for freedom of speech and saying, look, we can't live in a society where everybody's ready to, jump on each other's throats and attack and fight. You can't have a family that functions like that. You can't have a community that functions like that. You got to be able to have freedom of speech and freedom to make mistakes. Maybe you will say something that's slightly offensive. You got to be able to say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that, and then go on. Instead of 10 years later that you said this, and we're going to cancel you for that.
Your boy Zach, Richard Sumai, he always says that. He goes, "What are we going to live in a world without forgiveness?" Like, he said something stupid 7 years ago, and he goes, I said stuff that I'm embarrassed about that I wished I didn't say.
Thank goodness they didn't have a camera on me.
Right.
When I said stuff that was mean, or
I'm sure you could write tweets that would destroy me. I'm sure. Without a doubt. And I've said things to people that I love that I wish I could take back. Right. And this goes back to my comments about Frodo and Sam. Like, they can't understand the camaraderie of two guys in an extreme situation. So they have to make them gay in their mind, whatever. I don't know if they're doing that to piss us off, or they just legitimately can't understand how two guys can be friends. And so when Ethan is busted on Cecil, or Cecil says something, I don't know if he's ever said anything to you. Like, they never said anything to me. These guys probably don't even know I exist. But, like, they're busted on each other, and then Ethan will say something about somebody who's not there, and then they're like, look, they all hate each other. Gail Simone's like, yeah, the CG guys all hate each other. No, they're busted on each other. Like, if I went on Ethan's show, by the grace of God, if he invites me on and I'm on the panel and I'm selling my comic book, and they're polite to me, I'm going to go tell my wife they hated me.
Yeah.
Oh, John, doesn't that look good, everybody? Oh, good. Nice, John.
Yeah. Well, I remember one of the first shows I was on, I'm just talking away, and John Malin just goes up, Dan, I found a picture that looked like you. And it was a picture of, was it Mike Myers, the comedian? And it wasn't as Austin Powers, but it was another one where he was a complete goof. I mean, look, his hair was terrible. Like, and I just busted out laughing. I was like, oh, that's awesome. And it's like, some people can't handle that. Like, you got to be able to joke around. You got to roll with the jokes.
If you had reacted bad, like, you never would have came back.
No, it's not fun. Again, it gets back to that party pooping thing. It's
the wet blanket, the party poop. There we go. That'll be on Kickstarter in 4 months. John's Long Box, Dan Long, Party Pooper and Wet Blanket coming soon.
How about Kill?
You go to Ethan's show. Hey, everybody, Ethan's over here.
Wait, you could have Killjoy and
Killjoy. Yeah, we can have a whole team.
There's got. I think there's some others.
We're robbing the bank. Hey, my aunt has malaria.
Yeah. Marcus, the Rex, give us some more. We got to have some. What's another? Give us some more names.
Killjoy, the Party Pooper.
Yeah. The Downer.
The Downer. Yeah, instead of Downtown Abbey, I'm trying to think of what could be the teams. This is funny.
Yeah.
I don't know what. The Justice Society. I don't know. I don't know. I can't even think.
Social Justice Society.
I think they do the plunger. Elon Mudd is making that the Social Justice Society, and he was asking me to brainstorm. I came up with the Colonizer. That's gonna be one of the villains.
Yeah. And there's another one of those things. It's attacking you. You're guilty until what? Like, I didn't colonize anything. Like what? it's just ridiculous. You can, it's something you can never you're
Well,
and that
that's
gets back to, like, even a little bit of politics where the communists, you're guilty until proven innocent, versus our system, which was you're innocent until proven
right.
guilty.
And
And based on individual behavior, no, you're part of a group, you're already guilty,
yeah,
and that's a problem.
that's what I talk about. When people talk about it's right or left, I throw that away. It is against, it's individualism versus collectivism, and that's how I view my politics, and that's why social justice to me is evil, because I'm guilty because of you assigned a group to me, and it's easy. It's difficult to kill an individual. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to be the guy to just start up and shoot the individual, but it's easy to kill groups. Like right now, look at they're not even saying Jews, they're saying these Israelis, these Zionists, and
Yep.
anti-Semitism is making a breakback. But we're forgetting.
Could you believe what you saw in Australia, that the gas, they said gas the Jews and stuff like that? Like, oh
Yeah.
my God! Like,
but
I can't believe it. I heard that.
And it's like we're just forgetting that 1,500 people were just raped and shot. Where's all the outrage? Where are all these feminists? Where are all these women that believe all women and stuff like that? But no, one of my friends' daughters was like making an excuse, like, oh, colonizers, and I was like, you're a blonde white girl who lives in Arizona, like, so like an Indian could rape and kill you because you're a colonizer. This is what you're saying. You don't even believe what you're saying. It's individuals. 1,500 individuals were killed on the 7th, and I'm sorry, that's not okay. But it's easy because social justice made them colonizers, and colonizers, you could do whatever you want because we have labeled them as bad guys. Hey, RJ's here. RJ, we were talking about you before. RJ from the Fourth Age. Thank you for showing up. We were talking about RJ and I and
right.
Wednesday. But so that's what I say. Collectivism is the bad thing. Once we start making groups, it becomes bad. And that's why I have to laugh at all these Antifa people. They're going to fight fascists. I'm like, the fascists, the communists, and the Nazis, they're all collectivists. You know, and the more we get down to
they say they're anti-fascist, and they behave exactly like fascists.
Right. So I'm going to start a group, and I'm going to go around punching people in the face, but I'm going to call it the I Love Everybody Society. And if I decide that you don't love everybody, I get to punch you in the face. What's the matter? Are you against love? It's the child. I don't talk to one of my cousins anymore because I said this about Antifa. I'm like, doesn't matter what you call yourself.
Right.
It does. It's how you behave that matters. Oh man. And I'm not even smart. I'm a dumb person, and I figured this out.
Yeah, exactly. I'm no genius, and it's like, it's not that, it's like you got to take advantage. What we were given here, this freedoms, you can't take it for granted. It's really weird too, because I never was in any way political, but I'm starting to feel like, hey, wait a second, I think I have to actually take a stance for freedom of speech now.
Right.
It's like I'm talking to my buddies, my old friends and stuff. We're all kind of saying, never really thought about it before. Never just took, we just grew up with this wonderful freedoms, the creative freedom, everything. And all of a sudden you realize they're telling you, oh no, you can't draw that, or you have to draw that, and it's like, I remember one guy, it was, I think it was Buzz Dixon. I was discussing with something in a group chat, and he says, if someone comes up and tells you have to draw a couple of gay guys, you have to. And I said, well, no, I may not want to. You have to. If you're drawing comics, sketches for other people, you have to do that. And I'm like, that sounded weird to me. I'm like, wait a minute. Right. I should be free to draw whatever I want for whoever I want, whenever I want.
Right.
But they don't think that way. They really think
compelled work. So I'm compelled to work.
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing.
That baker that wanted to make the cake. We had the right to refuse service to anybody for anything.
Of course, they never do that to an Islamic bakery.
Right. Right. And they never mentioned the fact that they drove by 12 other bakeries to go to that one guy to bust.
Yeah, that they knew that, or the flower shop who got sued.
They were making us, whatever. But
it's ridiculous, and they're not helping anybody. They're not helping their cause. No. They're not. No. They're just pissing people off. That's not.
First off, do you want to eat food made by somebody who doesn't want to make food for you?
Yeah, exactly.
If I come to your house for dinner, Dan, and you make something that I don't like, this was wonderful, and then I'm never coming back. But I'm never going to say this is gross. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if I was forced to bake a cake and I'd be like putting salt in that baby and
yeah,
like,
it would be the
and
worst.
here it is. You wanted a
Here you go,
cake.
$800. Choke on this cake, But I don't know. The world is getting crazy. Like, forcing people to take experimental medicines. The whole world went
Yeah, exactly.
crazy in the past 4
Yeah, I
years.
would never have thought that. Here's just briefly speaking about that. What shocked me about the whole thing wasn't the people's opinions on the thing, the virus or the shot, but the people who I knew, and these are good people, friends
Right.
even, who said, if you didn't get it and then you went to the hospital, you should be sent home
You
without treatment.
should die.
I
Yeah.
was like,
We had
holy,
talk show hosts.
these are
What's that?
normal. These are my people I knew who I
Right.
know are good people saying this stuff, and I was shocked because I just like how you always wonder about fascism and how it works and how people can be justify
Well,
the death of others,
we
and
called them the unvaccinated, and we put them into
yeah,
a group,
yeah,
and then
and to see
groups
them suddenly
immediately start.
say normal people turn into psychos who say you should go home and die.
Right.
It changed my opinion on my fellow Americans.
Right.
I never
I had
saw anything like that. I just
well,
can't believe it.
I had a group that I played Dungeons and Dragons with for 3 years, and I never got the shot. I didn't see the point.
Yeah.
I didn't see the point. It doesn't protect you. Smallpox.
Well, they said that's another thing they were lying a lot, and they said at
Right.
first it would, and then they first of all they said it was created in a bat market, and everyone's like, yeah, right. But it came from that factory, and then it's all bullshit, So.
Yeah. Well, they said it came from the bat market, and I remember going. And again, I'm not a smart person,
Right.
and I'm like, well, where are the scientists going into the caves and finding the bats to isolate this germ and figure out what it is? Like I've seen that Dustin Hoffman movie. They went and got the monkeys and figured out. Nobody's doing it. Like they should be camera crews on these Chinese scientists capturing these
Yeah.
bats.
Yeah.
But they didn't. And right then and there, I
No,
said,
it was an engineered thing that escaped somehow, either accidentally or on purpose. That's what
yeah,
happened. And everybody pretty much admits that now.
right. But at the time, it was cancelable offense.
Exactly.
People were getting kicked off of Twitter. And we mentioned earlier before, do you think things are turning? Yes. Like between the Marvels movie bombing, comic books, they can't rely on the Disney money. So I think comic books are changing. But Elon Musk buying Twitter was,
I know.
I think that's going to be something that we're going to be talking about in history books.
I think so too.
And, say I'm being
freedom of speech. You've got to be. This is the thing is if you don't like speech, create other speech. That's what you. But freedom of speech is key because they don't realize if you shut down freedom of speech, sooner or later the pendulum swings your way.
right.
And your speech is going to get shut down if you can shut down someone else's speech. So you have to be very careful of that.
I family members that have Trump derangement syndrome, and they're talking about expanding the rights of Obama and Biden. I said, okay, so when Trump becomes the president, he's going to have all these extra powers.
Yeah, exactly.
To go through your medical records or to go through your phone, and look through your Twitter and get you fired. Because any power you give to the left, you're given to the right eventually. You think it's never going to go back. You got to prepare that way. And they're like,
yeah, they don't see.
I wanted to say what RJ said over here. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, this is RJ from the Fourth Age. This is him. Me and him are going to be doing a comic book team up show on. I don't know. We didn't work out the schedule, but next Wednesday, Ethan Bed Skyver is going to be our guest. But he says, for collectivists, your labor work does not belong to you; it belongs to everybody. And
which is scary, man.
Which is scary. Like there's I always come across these teenage communists, in my family and Twitter or whatever, and I always say the same thing to them. I'm like, okay, all right, so we all could do what we want, and I'm an electrician. I have a good skill. What do you bring to the table? What do you offer that's worth a house, food, healthcare, a car? What do you have? What can you do? Go.
Yeah.
And that silence is usually the answer. They didn't think about. Oh, so you're off in the fields. Like nobody wants your poetry. You're in a coal mine. You better hope, unless you're the doctor, unless you are like the scientist, unless can you fix cars? What can you do? All right, you're digging coal, buddy. You better pray because nobody cares about. Sorry, Dan. Nobody cares about a comic book artist in a communist society.
No.
You know what I mean? Because
Right. Yeah.
If
Well,
we're,
did you ever see that Yuri Bezhimov who did a
yes,
bunch of those speeches and stuff?
yeah,
And he said, they use all these people, they marginalize all that sort of thing to overthrow the government,
right, because
and
it's not
then
their fault that their
and
lives
then
are
once
here.
once once they take control, they shoot them
Right,
because
useful
they know
idiots.
they're useful idiots. They
Yeah,
just used them. So,
you
but
know,
it's like the idea. I mean, the idea. I can see a young person though. They share everything. Care.
right.
It sounds really nice, but then you think,
And that's how
well,
they
then,
get you because
well,
it does
then,
sound good.
you think, okay, so who gets to live in the beach house and who lives in the valley? Somebody's
That's
got to decide that.
right.
Not everybody can live in the beach house.
I said, "Oh, good." So I was arguing with one of these guys. One of my buddy's kids. I'm like, "Oh, so I could write poetry at the beach, like in this communist utopia. Are there poets? Yeah. So I could write poetry in the beach." I said, "I could get a beach house and I could drink wine and I could write poetry." And he's like, "Yeah." I said, "Good. So I don't have to be a construction worker anymore." And he's like, "Yeah." I said, "So then why would anybody be a construction worker?"
Yeah.
Well, I said, "Have you ever been on the George Washington Bridge in February? Have you ever taken a shit in a porta potty in 15 degrees below freezing? It sucks.
Yeah.
So why would anybody do what I do? I get compensated well. What are you gonna pick? I said, why would anybody be a doctor? You're going to go to school till you're 30, but all of your buddies have been partying up since they were 16, writing poetry at the beach house. But why are you going to go to school till 30 to get that house
Yeah.
that everybody else already had for 15 years? I said, you're not thinking this through. I said, you're
No.
going to the coal mines. Human beings. I was talking with Pete Samedi, and he really made me think about this. He goes, human beings are a weird species. Think about it. We need to be taken care of for like a long time, like 15 years. We need to cook our food. We need medicine. We need light. We need this sliver of temperature to,
Right.
like by all, we would die if not for the efforts of so many different things. Now we live for 90 years. We change the environment. All of that takes work. We need construction workers. We need doctors. We need scientists. We need guys who are good with technology. All this stuff, and you just want to get this. And what did you contribute to all this? What did you do that is worth all of this effort to keep a human being alive for 90 years? Nothing.
Yeah.
You're going to the coal field, buddy.
Yep.
Yep.
And getting to the point where we're this, because of all this hard work, this foundation we built, we can do entertainment.
Right.
On top of that, we can actually, people, bozos like me coming along and drawing comics to entertain all these people who are actually doing the actual work,
Yeah. Like under communist society, who gets to decide that you get to draw comic books and I don't? Like, I have no talent whatsoever, but I want to draw comic books. So, and then what? How many do you make? I always say this to people, like you forget, like you're not thinking this through, because what is all the stuff that makes life worth living? Poetry, watching a TV show, reading a comic book. Now, who decides? Like, do you get like a window? Okay, you can make so many comic books, and then the next guy gets to make comic books. And then who tells you, how many you get to publish? Do I get to?
I don't remember the National Endowment of the Arts ever supporting me.
Right. Yeah.
I never, when they had the bailout and the auto companies got bailed out, they didn't bail out me.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, so I don't know, just.
Yeah, I don't know. I just have to laugh. Like, you commie kids. So what do you bring to the table? Okay, we all share. What do you? I'm bringing electricity. Okay, I'm bringing electricity. I'm an electrician. I'm bringing electricity to your house. What are you giving me? Oh, you're a good slam poet. I don't want that. Matter of fact, get that away from me.
Yeah, exactly.
So a lot of people in my own family don't talk to me because I'm an asshole.
Yeah, we had some of that, mine, and then they've seen better light, and they realize we're not evil. But
and that's just it. Is we as conservatives, I think we went through a liberal phase. Like I my very first election, I voted Green Party. I dated hippie girls. So of course when I'm dating hippie girls, I'm a hippie guy. And I had my I forget what that poncho thing is with my Birkenstocks. You should have seen me back in my Albuquerque hippie days. It's unbelievable. Going after these girls with weird old tattoos and cornrow hairs. You know what I mean? And now here I am, like get out of my house, get out of my lawn, get out of my country.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, Gavin McGinnis.
So I can understand their point of view, but they can't understand our point of view, so they
No.
make it up and they attack us, and that's why Frodo and Sam have to be gay, because they can't
Yeah, or
understand.
Batman and Robin,
Right.
or what was it? Remember remember that comedy, The Odd Couple with Felix and
Oh,
Oscar?
that's my favorite sitcom of all
They
time.
thought they were gay,
Yeah, yeah.
and it takes all the fun out of it. It takes all the funny out of it,
Right, yeah. And they so we have to be, Republicans, you hate, that's why Frank Gorshin, that was political, because that's what the Republicans want. They want race war. Blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah.
Well, heck, some people they say Jesus was gay, like
Yeah, yeah.
it's like because he had all these guys around. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh man, you just don't.
Go say that to a banker gang. They're all hanging out with guys. You know what I mean? So that's always like, whenever I see this, I'm like, that's because you're immature and you can't understand the other side of the argument.
Right.
I can understand the other side of the argument.
They're young and stupid. That's the thing.
Well,
Is sometimes
I'm not going to mention names, but I had guys on my channel a couple of weeks ago that, like, after we're done talking, they're argue with me about politics. I'm like, but that's not what I said. That's not what I'm thinking. That's not what I. Yeah, everybody in history that was worth a damn is now gay retroactively. Kurt Cobain's is trans now, according to Magdalene Visaggio.
right.
Let's retroactively claim everybody. So
Yeah. Winston McKay. They try to say that about Winston McKay. Well, now maybe who knows? Maybe it was, but but some of these guys were. I think some of these guys may have had those leanings or something, but they were so focused on their art, they really didn't care. It wasn't a thing.
I wasn't there. So and you know what? It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter anyways.
I still could separate the. I could still separate the art from the arts. Now I'm not talking about Palmiotti. No, Palmiotti. He's an old school Democrat that I respect. Palmiotti is an old school New York, Brooklyn Democrat.
Well, he's still friends with Billy, and that tells you everything you know about Billy, about Jimmy, because they're dear friends, but they couldn't be more different, politically.
Right. Me and Palmiotti disagree, and I'm respectful to him. I don't say anything nasty to him. He doesn't say anything nasty to me. He's been on my channel twice. He's a wonderful guy, but I like him because he's like a blue collar guy that goes to the opera, and he goes around the world to museums. Like one of my buddies, his father was a blue collar Democrat, FDR guy. But this guy, he liked his jazz. He liked his martinis. He would go to the opera house, and this guy could talk to you about Dostoevsky and, well read. You don't see Democrats like that anymore.
No.
I think Palmiotti is going to get kicked out of his own, Democrat group some of these days.
Well, that's what happens.
Because I don't think he's progressive enough. Because even he's starting to say I want to get out of corporate comics, and I don't want to say anything. I don't want to get him in trouble because I like him. Yeah, but.
They get it red pilled.
First, I'm talking about you. It's not too hard to figure out who I'm talking about.
they get red pilled, and they all of a sudden they start eating their own, and because that's what the communism does. It's eventually they run out of other people's money, and they run out of and they start picking on. Hey, wait a minute, I was on your side. Like, no, you're you're next.
You can never live up to the standards.
No.
You can never live up to the.
It's like the pronoun thing where. You can't figure it out, and they know you can't figure it out, and that's what they want. So they can judge you, and it's a lot of it's about judging to feel superior and that kind of thing. So
absolutely, and because do you remember? People are gonna get mad at me, but do you remember when they? We're not saying biological sex. There's still biological sex. Gender is a social construct, so it's just and now it's biological sex. Like this is a female penis. It's like. Now they're saying science doesn't support there's any difference between the sex. I'm like, oh my god, like how many women's skulls are going to get busted in sports before you admit that yes there are differences. You're being crazy. There's differences. That's like saying there's no difference between blue and red and purple and green. There's differences.
Well, normal people are starting to notice, and they're starting to go, okay, this is getting ridiculous. Even Zach there just cut it out. He's like, there's this. I think we're at that point where it's just like we're getting angry. We're saying, hey, if you have somebody is gay or something, you want to treat them well and all that, but in your fantasies, it's different. You don't want to. They're trying to insert these gay fantasies into heterosexual fantasy. And it doesn't work. It's never going to work. It doesn't mean they're anti-gay. This means you're not gay. That's it. So it's like that's what they got to start recognizing. We got to start standing up and saying, no, We're not
I
being
think
mean, not being
it's just
malicious.
like the Soviet Union. They would put out the Pravda, and they would give you the party line, and you knew it was a lie. They knew it was a lie, and I think it was just there to demoralize you. Like, look, we get these people. They know that this isn't the truth. We know that's not the truth, but they are powerless. We're showing them how powerless they are before like these obvious lies. Like, and then we're gonna get these like other people. Like, come on.
Yeah, and then you get the parent.
People knew that this shot really didn't do anything, and now they're telling you should die if you don't get this worthless shot.
Yeah.
And we're
And
doing this,
they got people
no
ratting
difference.
out. They got people.
There's no difference between man and a woman, and yeah, we all know there is. They know there is.
Yeah, they know that.
But it's just like, how far can we get these people to suppress their true feelings and thoughts?
I think a lot of them are kind of surprised. Like, I can't believe we're getting away with this. You know?
Right? Yeah. Okay. And now we're going to go this farther. And now we're going to go this farther.
That you're still going for this?
Yeah. And I just yesterday I had to take the online sexual harassment class for my job to keep my job.
Mm-hmm.
And every year it gets a little bit more crazy, and like, so at first it was like, it was funny. You kind of look forward. Don't grab ass at work, and and it's almost like Bozo the Clown. Wow, and you're laughing, and then they hired another group of people. And last night I'm taking this class, and the very first lines is like, "It's 2023, and we have to be aware of social justice and diversity and inclusion and equity." I'm like, what does this have to do with sexual harassment?
Yeah.
You see how they encroach this? So now I have to take this class, and I have to virtually sign it to keep my job.
Right.
So I had to pledge allegiance to a communist philosophy.
I know. Awful.
And I bring the certificate to my boss, and I you better believe I ranted and raved this morning at 6:30 in the morning. I'm bringing it to my foreman, and my foreman makes me look tame. He's like, I know, what are we gonna, you getting paid an hour overtime? I'm like, it's not the money. It's not the money. Like we all know that there's people without the strength of will. Then 6 months ago, we had this woman come out, and it's a whole bunch of construction workers, and she came out and she's like, I'm the head of DIE, and it's diversity, equity, and inclusion, and blah, blah. And everybody starts clapping. And I turned to my buddy. I go, what are you clapping for? Do you know what these words mean? He goes, huh? I go, define diversity, equity, and inclusion. And he's like, I don't know. I said, what are you clapping for? I said, be like that guy who didn't raise his hand.
Yeah, that famous picture.
And then, of course, I'm the bad guy because who's against inclusion? You're against inclusion.
Right.
John Fogelbach is against inclusion. He's also against anti-FOSS. That means he's, like,
yeah. Well, it's like the like the health care thing. Like, what? Well, you don't want health care for everyone? Well, but yeah, it would be nice. But the reality is the healthcare is going to suck if you go socialist on these, and stuff like that. You'll be sitting in a room with 500 people waiting to get seen.
My wife is from Canada, and when she moved here, lady stuff. She's like, I gotta get my birth control. I gotta change a new doctor. I was like, okay, we'll call up the doctor tomorrow. And she's like, okay, so we call up the doctor tomorrow. Oh, your appointment's today. We could go. She's like, what are you talking about? So she went and she got the prescription. She's like, this would have taken me 3 months in Canada.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
Exactly. It's a mess. Yeah.
I want everybody to have health to respond to them. I want everybody to have health care, but it's but I don't want universal health care. Look at England. They just killed that little kid because he had some sort of disease. They wouldn't let the parents go in. They actually had the police outside to keep the parents from kidnapping that little boy, and the little boy died.
Oh my gosh.
And Italy already said, bring him over here. We'll treat him. We can't guarantee that he'll live, but we'll treat him. And England said, no, the parents were going to kidnap this kid, bring him to Italy. And they kept their own parents at gunpoint so that kid could, that's what universal health care does.
Yeah.
My buddy Dave, his mom, old lady, she fell down. They put her on a bus, put her in the hospital. They moved her around, and nobody knew where she was. She was lost for 6 weeks. Nobody knew what hospital she was in. She was little.
Where was that?
This is London.
Okay, yeah.
And so he says, oh, I can't find my mom, and I don't want to say anything, and then finally they find his mom. She's okay. She's lost at some hospital. Nobody treated her. She's in her own feces and stuff. And I was like, hey, Dave, how's that universal health care? And he calls me a dick, but I had to say something.
I don't know why they like it, but it's like,
because they don't know better.
yeah, that's probably it too.
They don't know better, and then they're letting in millions upon millions of people that are.
Well, that's because we're starting, people like us starting to wake up, and they need numbers to outdo us. But
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Well, how's that? We didn't mean to get political, guys.
yeah.
I already said goodbye an hour ago, and now for the last, this is the politics.
Yeah, wait a minute. We don't want to be these wet blanket things going on.
How you doing? What was wet blanket and party pooper? Yeah, I guess I'm wet blanket. You're party pooper.
Well, they force it upon you, sort of. But when they bring it in, then it's like, okay, now you got to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I want to talk about, you got Captain America. I want to see Captain America throwing his shield and getting a lizard guy, or something. That's it.
Another pet peeve. The Falcon. Okay, the Falcon's going to take over the mantle of Captain America. Okay, why isn't he called the American Eagle then? It writes itself. He's got wings. He's the American Eagle now. Okay. And then let somebody else become the Falcon and let somebody else become Captain America. And then you got 3 comics to sell. You stupid idiots at Marvel. You don't even know how to pander correctly.
Yeah. Yeah. There's nobody at the wheel. There's nobody at the wheel at Marvel or DC. And they're gone. And it's just, I'm not sure if you can even fix it at this point because.
Do you want to fix it?
Yeah, really. And what I saw this stuff back happening a long time ago, like back when the Image guys came in and then when they left and they tried to flood the market, like almost like you're trying to do something with stocks, and so you had 5 Spider-Man titles and the art was not good because the talent pool is so thin, and they abused their collectors. So there's a lot of guys who close their collections rather than have it contaminated with junk art. Used to be a quality control on the product, if you want to call it that, and they used to have branding, and they ignored the branding, they ignored the quality control, and it just I think that's when it that was the beginning of the end. That's when I left. I saw this stuff. I'm surprised. What's that?
What year was this when you said you stopped?
Like in the 90s?
So you quit before me. I quit Marvel DC in 2015, cold turkey.
Yeah, so 87 to 97, and I was in the field, and I just where was the time they went bankrupt? They almost went bankrupt for a short period there.
I forget exactly what year, like 94, 95, around there.
Yeah. So I saw back then. I thought the comic book industry was going to go down in the tubes. It just took longer than I thought. Right. That's why I left. I thought because I remember, like as I mentioned, you're trying to get these jobs. I was like, in between jobs, you get this $400 a week, but I gotta say my legs cramp a little bit. But you didn't have consistent work even. So I remember thinking, I don't want to be 60 scrambling for, trying to get these peanuts.
Next thing you know, you're
paid
the next
nothing, and then there's no industry too. It's like I've been out of history. So I did make the right move to a certain extent. Although when I look back and I hear about Ethan Van Sciver and some of these guys, like they did pretty well actually. They're getting paid a lot more per page,
right? As
they went along.
Chuck Dixon says he can't afford the pay cut to go back to Marvel and DC.
Yeah.
So, God
bless him. Well, I'm saying when Ethan was at DC, though, he was being paid pretty well. A lot of these guys were Dave Finch. I think makes quite a bit of money. So they're still there, and they're still. I mean, I sometimes I wonder if it was a bad move.
When they left in 2016, but do you think, like, does the guy who draws X-Men right now, does he make Ethan?
Right, that's what I'm thinking. Is even these guys? I wonder if they're taking pay cuts too at Marvel and DC now. That we're doing these good paid rates, and I don't know. Can they not afford to? Because I think they had movie money that was coming in, and they have all these merchandising. But once they kill their franchises as they're doing, and make them not cool, then the merchandising stops. When the merchandising stops, then you got a real problem because then you can't afford to pay these artists and stuff.
Look at these. Danny Lore, what is she writing, X-Men? And she's begging for rent money, and she's writing X-Men. I can never recall Chris Claremont begging for rent money.
Yep.
I don't remember any of these people. When John Byrne was writing the Fantastic Four, I don't remember him going, I have $9 in the bank. Can anybody hit me up until payday?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know what. I say this a lot. In 2015, I broke up with my girlfriend Marvel and my girlfriend DC, and I'm not going back.
Yeah.
There's a reason. Even if they, and if they fix themselves out, they straighten themselves out, and and I could, I broke up with some girls, and today I'm friendly with them. Hey, Rachel, how you doing? I see you straighten out your life. I don't want to go back to her.
Right.
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 So I wish
once it's kind of the trust is they've shown that they cannot be good stewards of these
right.
characters, and
Yes.
so if they did it once, they'll do it again, and that's the problem. So that, and so forget it.
I don't trust them. I hope they right the ship because I love the characters. I love the characters more than the company. I got stacks of comics right over here.
Right.
I'm still reading old time comics, but
Yeah.
but I'm done. I moved on. I'm making my own comics. I'm enjoying Comicsgate stuff. There's so much good stuff.
Yeah. I do actually think that is the future of comics. So comics are, because now, like I said, I didn't have the time to do a good piece of work. Now you can work on one comic for 6 months, and you can make that thing just as beautiful as you could possibly make anything.
Like the European model.
Yeah. Yeah. And
one
so
guy will
I think
make
this
one
is
book a year, and it's the best freaking book ever. You can
Right.
do that now.
Right, exactly. So I'm anticipating even more guys doing this and having really just great comic books. Because, I got into comics in 87. Right before that was Frank Miller's Dark Knight in 86,
Right.
Watchmen. There was all kinds of great stuff. And I'm like, comics are awesome. I'm being a comic artist, and it's so cool. And then all of a sudden nothing happened. And it just kind of like went, it just wasn't.
We got 10
good.
people in the chat, and we got Dan here. I want to ask a question. Can anybody legitimately tell me what was the great comic book story of the last 10 years?
Yeah, it's true.
Okay?
Yeah.
What is it? Where is the Watchmen of the past 10 years? What Civil War? Secret
What about Bernie? Where's next Bernie Wright's in Frankenstein? That work was beyond belief. It was out of this world, and it's just I think Eric July could. I don't think so.
I want you to clarify that. I think Eric July is I kind of asked him. I was like, I was kind of hoping he could be like the savior of the comic book business, because that guy's got FU money now. Like, wouldn't it be great if Eric July? I kind of was asking him to do this, and I don't think he was on my channel. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, I was like, why don't you make Eric July like be Image Comics, and then Dan Lawlis could go to him, and then Eric July guys could do the pre-printing and publish it and ship it and stuff like that. So all you have to do is do your art, do your story, and then Eric July's people just like, this meets our standards, this doesn't meet our standards. So guys like you don't have to worry about mailing the comic books, doing the pre-press stuff. That's not funny. That's not fun. Like, I could write my comic and I hire my artist, send it over, like making Image Comics. Like, that's their model is, you give them a finished product and they do everything else, but they're not a political commissar. It's not like, left-wing politics. And Eric was like, he kind of shyly said, like, that's in the plan. So I hope that, like, Ethan Van Sciver.
I think I think there is a little danger in that, though.
Right, there is, yes.
Because what I think what's great about crowdfunding and what people are responding to is supporting one person doing the art, the story, and like that kind of thing. Like you getting it directly from them. When they start farming it out, then they start to just sort of become a company again, and that you lose kind of that human connection. When you support a comic like Aaron Leprestes or something, Aaron's drawing it all, and you're really supporting him and his efforts and that stuff. But if Aaron hired somebody else, it's kind of not Aaron anymore. You know what I'm saying? It's right.
Like Dan Lawlis, me and you. Okay, I write Party Pooper and Wet Blanket. You draw Party Pooper and Wet Blanket. It is ours. We do everything, and then Eric July's company. All they do is do the pre-press, print it, and ship it.
Well, that's a possibility where if someone.
That's what I'm talking about. Like, it's not like he's our boss that tells us what to do.
Right. Right. I'm kind of wondering what my thing is. I'm kind of wondering, could they do something where these comic shops could survive by just simply ordering directly from us, contacting Aaron, contacting Ethan, saying, Ethan, I think somebody has kind of asked him about that. He kind of turned it down, but the so far, but the idea could be you print your create and print and everything. You ship it to comic book. You become your own distributor. Ship it to all of these comic shops, and you sell it that way. I mean, that seems like a possibility
Record stores
too.
used to do it with all the punk rock 7-inches.
What was that? Who's that?
Like back in the 80s and 90s when I was into punk rock, you'd go to a record store and they had all the 7-inches of local bands that nobody knew about. Like those 7-inches were basically handmade and sold to record stores. They could do it with crowdfunded comics too. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, I'm thinking that could be a possibility because these are a little more expensive with the shipping and stuff. That's the only thing that's the slight,
That's the only thing is I really don't want to spend $35 a comic book.
Yeah.
But
it's not as that's why I'm saying this is why I don't know if that I'm a little concerned that could be, because if you farm it out, let's say you're doing 2 or 3 comics, now you got to buy 3 comics, and we're talking $100, for 3 comics, and it's like that gets a little pricey. That's what I'm saying. I think sometimes people can justify, say, okay, I'm going to pay $35 for that one guy, and he, that's his comic.
Yeah,
he worked on it, and he did it, and it's coming from him, delivering from him.
When I put out my comics, it's totally worth it. Everybody, just understand that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm excited and I'm nervous at the same time. Like, we right now comic books is in a chrysalis light. Like the butterfly went in reverse, and now it's back in this cocoon. And what's going to emerge is going to be something different.
Yep.
But it will be comic books, and it'll be different. It's exciting. It's scary. I don't think it's the death of comics like everybody. I think we are in a metamorphosis of comics.
Yeah.
And what you said about the comic book stores, I forgot about this, and your boy Zach just said it. He goes, he tried to go to the comic book stores, if you remember. He signed up with Alternative Antarctic Press, and Mark Wade and Gail Simone and all these people badgered them until he couldn't. You know what I mean? I haven't forgotten that exactly. Yeah, I forgot that too, and I'm glad he brought it up today. And that to me is like, I would love to get Gail Simone or Kelly Sue DeConnick to be like what you're doing right now, talking to me, so I could make them understand. Me, Comicsgate, we are Frankenstein's creation. You are Frankenstein. If Zach was the spearhead, if Jawbreakers had got into comic book stores and shops, there would have been no Comicsgate. There would have been no need for crowdfunding. Antarctic Press would have picked up John Malin and maybe Cyberfrog and all of this stuff. And, but they forced him out, and then he made a fortune. He was talking about it. He's like, thanks a lot, guys. I just did. We saw him doing like $68,000, which before that, like the biggest comic book was making like 10 grand. And now everybody cha-ching, cha-ching, for good or for bad. And then Ethan made 3 million, and Eric July is making, so thanks a lot, Kelly Sue. Thanks a lot, Gail. Thanks a lot, Mark Ward. Yeah. You created us. Yeah. So, and now you get mad at us for not going to the comic book stores. But that was the intention all along. And, so there you go. How's that for another rant? You got me fiery today, Dan. I thought you were going to be like mild-mannered artist. You got me saying things.
Well, I'm actually getting kind of angry, because I said I've been on this kick for a long time. When I, you can find me back in 2011 talking about this stuff. So it's it's long in coming. This is really great.
It's nice to meet other people that agree.
Yeah. Well, I think we're actually the silent majority. That's what it really comes down to, because people just, we're more, in tune with what's happening, because we're really talking about it more, listening to these shows, and you get someone like Ethan who can articulate it very well and stuff. But, I think a lot of people like I think Cecil's experience was coming into the comic book shop going, what the heck is this? I hadn't been in it in a while. And he's like, this is nonsense. Then he found Ethan's show. And so it's like, that's kind of happening more and more. People are finding that, hey, there is something wrong. It wasn't me. It was, there's something wrong with these comics,
My buddy had a comic book store that I've been going to, and he would tell the story every week that a father would come in with his son or his daughter, and we just saw Robert Downey Jr. and we're gonna get a comic book, and then like, who's this Riri Williams? Oh, that's the new Iron Man. It's like a 14-year-old girl is Iron Man, and okay, so let's get Thor. Oh, you're really gonna like this one. It's a woman with cancer. She's Thor. Oh, okay. And then they pick up a pack of Pikachu cards and never come back.
Exactly.
And that guy's a Nazi, obviously. He's an
Yes.
Islamophobe,
Exactly.
Nazi
It's
phobe, whatever.
ridiculous. And it's mean.
Right,
It's a nasty thing to do to a good, decent person. You know.
right.
And that's what I think. That most I would presume most of us are good, decent persons, and we're not. We're to demonize your readers like that
Right.
is
Again,
terrible.
turn them into a group, and then it's easy to attack them.
Yeah. Terrible.
That's why I think identity politics is the worst thing ever. Identity politics leads to communism, leads to Nazis, it leads to authoritarianism, it leads to everything. It leads to bad comic books, which is the most unforgivable. Yeah. So
We better wrap this up.
I know. You got me fired up now, and my wife for my birthday is making me spaghetti and meatballs, my favorite dinner, and I'm sure I'm going to go up there. I'm going to get a cold plate of spaghetti and meatballs because we were supposed to be done an hour and a half ago. But Dan, I could talk to you forever.
Yeah.
I already said goodbye. I
Do it
gave you
again.
out an hour and a half ago.
We'll do it again, especially if there's some kind of something going down.
Oh, do you want to tell us the name of the project you're working on, or is this a secret?
Oh, what I'm working on right now is it's if anybody knows, J.C. Vaughn runs Comic Book Buyer's Guide, and he's written just a story that's a sort of a backup story for the Kent Menace character, and so I'm working on that. It's going to be put out into comic books and stuff like that, or into shops probably or something like that.
Oh, cool.
So.
Cool. And I love your art. The picture of the black and white picture of the woman that I've been using to promote. I love that.
Yeah,
that is
Rosetta female. Did you see that in color? Like that because it was in color, and that's a color.
I didn't even see it in color.
You got to see it.
I love black and white art, but I'll look at it now. And we got Dan Lawlis, Marcus. Okay, he always beats me to it. I was gonna say, put up here you go. This is his copy and paste. This is your art lessons on YouTube.
Yeah,
and then you have I want to get your other. It's all the way back here. You have your own personal website. There we go. danlawlis.com. Like I couldn't remember that.
Yeah, that's where you can actually, if you go there, you can get launched to any. You can get your links then to Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and everything there. So if you want to know, that's your sort of your airport.
Yeah.
So
and thank you so much. You got I try to make a hard fast rule of only an hour because you can actually see my throat starting to go. But I could have talked to you all night long. Why don't you live next door to me? Come over, we'll play some Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, that was great.
Dungeons and Dragons, it's always been political, Oh
God.
All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thanks everybody for tuning in.
One more thing, and we talk for another 30 minutes. We'll say goodbye.
Right.
Bye-bye. All right. Thanks for so many people in the chat. I'm sorry if I missed some of your comments. Dan got me fired up.
Yeah,
and I was
we're gonna roll.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. Bye-bye.